Hello, Dr. Hamhock.
Hello, Bouncy Ball.
Oh, I miss you. Will you come back and do the show with me?
Uh, 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 no.
Bouncy ball, darling, sex still a commander. With a holocaust. With a holocaust. Bounce is back with lots of new stuff. Talking video games with them. Do you think that they've had enough of Destiny? Have they bumped love? Bounce has quit his job in Wisbeach. Now he's sleeping in a ditch. Has he found a new one this week? Or is he drinking Listerine and bleach? Now he's on the show to talk about Ubisoft, House of Wolves, begging change, eating grass. Let's all make an effort to cheer him up by humouring him. Good evening, listeners, we are the Logos. We are the bestest gaming podcast. Bouncy called Alex, Sexilla, Cam and Up, talking shit about games. Good evening, listeners, we are the Holocaust. We are the bestest gaming podcast. Bouncing is up with a bucket of new stuff. Now let's hear them talk. Talking bollocks. Talking bollocks. Talking bollocks.
Hello, Bouncy.
Hello, Rob.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Good.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay.
We're a bit delayed on this one.
We are a bit delayed.
It's bank holidays.
Bank holidays.
Every time it's a bank
full
holiday,
moons, bank holidays.
It breaks the recording plan. It's almost like Eurovision happened and we all got amazed that Russia did so well.
Well,
Given the fact that everybody thought, oh no, everyone's going to hate Russia.
but then the Swedes came to the rescue. Just like World War Three, the Swedes are in there.
And Australia just poked its nose in where it had no damn business being.
That was a good song, the Aussies one. I quite liked it.
He was like the pop idol winner though, weren't he?
A little bit.
So that's... No, he was like in his country.
Oh, right, he was genuine. Oh, right, sorry, I misunderstood.
That would be like Gareth Gates doing Eurovision. Actually, he should have done that. That would have been brilliant. They'd have loved him, a stuttering
I'm a
wanker.
little bit surprised he hasn't actually been asked to Eurovision by this point.
Because he'd be perfect.
He's got stuff in the West End now, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember rightly.
Well, either way. So we're back, episode 20. So apologies for last week. I'm sure that everybody's going, but they could enjoy Eurovision, surely.
I'd hope so.
And a bank holiday weekend.
Oh.
They don't need a podcast to enjoy
Leave the
that.
house, you sad bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This week we'll be looking at the Smite beta on Xbox One,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting to say the least. We're discussing new DLC for Destiny, the House of Wolves,
Yes.
as it's called. And we'll be looking at a rather splendid point-and-click adventure game I've been playing called Technobabylon.
Yep.
They will also have news, as usual, and seeing what, if any, job I've managed to get in the last fortnight since bragging about being
a burden on society.
Yeah, and I have been applying, so there's a...
Ian Duncan Smith came round and he was like, right, Bouncy. No, I didn't say it like that, obviously.
Earn or learn. That's what they're saying now, isn't it? The considers that's their
Learn
new
the hard
thing.
way, they come on the bat.
Students basically, or teenagers, have to either earn or learn. They won't get benefits.
Wow.
Which is good, but not being a teenager doesn't bother me. I can just rake it in, living in a council house. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Right, this week I've been playing the Smite beta.
Yes.
Are you aware of Smite?
Very loosely, again, because it's Xbox One and I haven't made the leap yet, I've been on the periphery.
It's been out on the PC for a little while, and you can tell it's developed with a PC audience in mind. It's one of those MOBA type games where it's kind of like a battle arena, online, big multiplayer thing. This one's based around gods and mythology.
Okay.
So that was the thing that drew me in. Also the fact that they sent me an email saying, would you like to play the closed beta? And I went, yeah. And then 2 days later they opened the beta to everyone. And I just thought, this is great. But yeah, so essentially you pick a god. Now this is not just Greek mythology. This is Greek mythology, this is Hindu mythology, this is everything. Norse mythology, the lot.
So it's got the full range of mythology.
Yeah, it's clearly worried. The only one who's not in there is Muhammad.
Right.
And that's because nobody wanted to be the guy who animated Muhammad as a warlord. So he's not in there, but Shangri-La type gods and things like that, they're all in there. And they've also got, in some cases, some unlockable skins that could be counted as blasphemous. Like, for example, Zeus has got an unlockable Xbox exclusive skin that gives him green tinged outfit and the Xbox logo as his shield. Now, that's a little bit too commercial for my religious beliefs. Now, obviously, Greek mythology, that's not so bad.
Yep.
But some of them are a bit more.
And they haven't got any money to march over to Seattle and wage war on Microsoft anyway, so...
No. So, I can be honest, I wasn't that interested. I looked at it because it was the mythology. The trailers for it, when it was announced a couple of years ago, did look impressive, but again, trailers do.
Well,
it was a big, like, full motion video style, like, here it is, giant, great big gods fighting. So the idea is, in the main game mode, you have, like, a titan.
Yep.
And then you've got, like, a statue.
And then he falls, and the little man gets in him. Oh, no.
Wrong game. So... Then you got like a statue thing, and then you got like a phoenix,
right?
And then you got like some towers,
right?
And you've basically got to get to the other side and attack theirs, and they've got to try and attack yours.
Okay.
So it's two armies coming together, almost like a tug of war, but attacking and defending.
Okay.
At the same time, because you're a god,
yep.
you have disciples and followers,
okay,
who will run into battle,
right,
with your banner. So if you kind of stay back, they take a lot of the damage, or you're sort of firing abilities from behind.
Right, okay.
So they're almost like a resource.
So is this a little bit Dynasty Warriors-esque in how it plays?
Similar, but not on that larger scale.
Okay.
It's just small enough to be... Like, you feel like you're making a difference. Dynasty Warriors games, I always felt they were so huge. And the combos were so ridiculous. Like, you felt you were completely overpowered. In this, you're fighting other gods. So it's a completely level playing field. And you can die a lot.
Yep.
I mean, if you don't play strategically, if you lose your health, you can go back to your base and top your health and your mana points back up and go back out.
Okay.
You never have to die.
Yeah.
It's if you push it, you've got to judge when you stop pushing into enemy territory. How much damage can you do without necessarily dying and then leaving everything undefended?
Yeah.
So it's a very well-balanced game. Considering it's in beta stage, I mean, obviously it's been out on PC for a while, but they could release it as is, and it's pretty much there. It's a lot of fun. As far as I know, it's coming out free to play, and then you can have transactions to get extra gods and things in the game, and you can gather premium currency to unlock them regularly. So for me, there's no reason why anybody who's got the opportunity to get into the beta shouldn't give it a go, and I shall keep plugging at it and seeing how it goes. There's a Founders Pack, which is like if you buy it now, you get all the gods, plus all the gods that come out after the game's out, plus some exclusive skins and some premium currency for about 25 quid.
So this is like the ultimate edition almost.
This
where you
is
get
if
the
it was
DLC
if it was
and all
coming
that
on a
sort of
disc.
stuff.
I think at some point they'll probably do a disc release, which will be like Killer Instinct did when it comes out. For 25 quid, if the game is as playable as it is now for another few weeks, I'll probably do that anyway.
Yeah.
It's well put together, and like I said, there's a lot of people sort of saying, "Hey, anybody want a smite code? Anybody want a smite code?" And they send them out to emails to people.
Yeah.
A lot of people just ignoring it because there are so many betas coming out at the moment. They're just like, "Well, I don't want a beta. I don't want early access. I just want to play the game." This one is worth giving a go, in my opinion. So there we go. What about you?
I was playing Mass Effect 3 in the lead up to House of Wolves.
Okay.
I've basically done, I think, everything you can do on Tuchanka, the Krogan homeworld.
Yes.
I just kind of like, well, I'm here now. So I started off on the little quest line to cure the genophage, got there, and I'm like, I might as well finish while I'm here. You know, nice weather. But yeah, so I kind of soldiered through that and advanced somewhat. And so I met Mordin and then lost him in the same night, which is all fun. I miss Mordin. I liked Mordin as a character.
I liked that whole section of that game. The whole thing. That could have been a game on its own.
Potentially.
The lead up to why they created it in the first place, and then the following. I just think that's brilliant sci-fi writing. I loved it, and it was a genuine, like, you could see both sides of the argument.
Yeah,
it wasn't a clear there's a good answer and a bad answer. It's just where is your moral compass as opposed to what's the right thing to do. And
that kind of built up over the trilogy, though. Even from the start, there were pretty clear left or right, red pill, blue pill choices. And then 2 sort of expanded on that, and it got a little bit more, well, if this happens, that knocks onto it. And there actually were some choices which did affect certain things within the game, and certain things that happen, and obviously you lose team members along the way. Obviously there was that big hoo-ha about what they actually meant when it came to the final choice. But when you're working your way through, they do actually feel like they matter.
Yeah.
It's just that the ending kind of pulled the rug out a bit. But it's nice to go back to some of these moments and set pieces and relive them, because they do still feel like, at this point, even knowing what I know, it's actually, as you said, this is a meaningful point of the game, because you're basically going, I've either got to side with these guys or these guys. And all to I went, well, I like Rex, he's my mate.
Yeah.
Fuck you, you weird midget tadpoles. As much as I like Mordin, he's one man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and that's the thing, like, as well, when you know your decision will remove a squad member as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's different if it's your decision will affect a planet, but this is a decision where you have to decide, well, actually, one of your team is now going to go. And
because it affects that galactic readiness thing as well.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 3 kind of had that other element with it. It's like, well, I've got to choose them or them. Ultimately, I'll probably both nudge my galactic readiness up slightly.
Yeah.
But who would I rather have in my fictional world fighting beside me?
Yeah, scientists or warlords.
Well,
exactly. But yeah, well, so you're getting through it then.
I'm chugging through slowly.
Plugging away. It's just as long as nothing amazing happens in Destiny, then you'll go back to it time and time again over the next week, I'm sure.
Maybe.
I've been watching some films this week.
I saw.
Kingsman, The Secret Service.
Still haven't seen it, want to see it.
Do you know what? I wanted to see it because of who it was. Because it was Mark Miller.
Yep.
The original character was... the artwork was done by Dave Gibbons, who did the artwork for The Watchmen.
Yep.
And generally, well, Mark Miller I like anyway, because his Marvel stuff's brilliant. And Wanted was great, even though the film wasn't amazing. But it was still a very, very watchable film. This one sort of... I've read The Secret Service, and I knew this was very loosely based on the comic book. It was based on the concept of this kind of Secret Service, really.
But we've had a lot of that with even with some of the Marvel films. They pull in different elements from different comic book stories.
So this was entirely, you can see it's an adaptation of the Secret Service comic book, but what they wanted to do was, let's do a post-millennial... Actually, no, post-millennial is the wrong word. It's post-Skyfall. Right. It's post-Bourne Ultimatum. This is what is a spy movie. And so it kind of looks at the big 1960s over-the-top kind of Icarus File or whatever, and Bond films, and then says, actually, let's do a film that's respectful to those, but also points out how ridiculous they are, while at the same time being one of those films, but just in an incredibly different way. It feels like, what if the people who made Kick-Ass wanted to now take the mickey out of spy films? But it was so much... I mean, it's got Mark Strong in it with a Scottish accent.
Colin Firth.
You've got Michael Caine.
Samuel L.
Jackson. I mean, it's a great cast, and yet the highlight is still the young lad who joins the Secret Service. Now, with all of those actors, you should think there's no way he could shine, and it works brilliantly. It's as a film goes, there wasn't a moment in that film where I was bored. There wasn't a moment that I thought, oh, they could have done that better, or they could have done this better. There's a fight scene in a church set to Freebird by Lynyrd Skynyrd that is probably one of my favourite fight scenes I've ever seen. And I can't say any more about it without spoiling any of the brilliance. But do see it as soon as you can. It is glorious. It's out on DVD and Blu-ray in a couple of weeks' time. And I heartily recommend it. Yesterday, though, I decided to go to the cinema and see Tomorrowland.
Another film I would like to see.
Which, again, I'm not going to spoil anything for it, but this is the film that came out with almost no marketing in terms of telling you what it was about.
True, yes. It's been very ambiguous.
Yeah. And
which I liked. That's what intrigued me.
Yeah. When it was first announced, I don't know how much into sort of films you are, that when this film was first announced, there was no press release. A box arrived at a magazine office that just had some materials from the 1960s in, and a pin badge. And they were like, oh, we have no idea what this means. And then there was rumours that Hugh Laurie might be involved somehow, and it might be based around Disneyland, but nobody knew anything.
So I love that. I love that kind of...
Going into that film, knowing so little about it, meant that the director, which is Brad Bird, director of The Incredibles and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol,
Yep.
and The Iron Giant.
And the Iron Giant. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Which one?
I'm not a big Ghost Protocol fan.
No,
It's okay, don't get me
I
wrong.
thought compared to the other ones...
As a popcorn film,
Yeah.
actiony film, I can enjoy it. But it's no Incredibles or Iron Giant.
No, but as a Mission Impossible film, it was very fun.
That's fine,
Yeah. And that fight scene in the multi-story car park at the end was very, very good.
That's choreographed popcorn action film.
Yeah. But for a guy who's only ever done animated films, I thought that you could
that's
see
fair.
that he
Yeah.
understood the design. And that's something that comes out in Tomorrowland. In Tomorrowland, for want of a better word, not knowing anything before you go in is a massive benefit.
Yeah.
However, they shouldn't have put out the trailers they put out. Because I see a lot of people will go in and they will have made their own mind up what this film is going to be because there was such a limited amount of information.
So they've given a little bit too much in the trailers.
No, I think they've given too much of one aspect of the film.
Right.
So
it's going to be misinterpreted what genre perhaps
well,
it sits
have
in.
you seen Hugo?
No, still not seen
Right.
Hugo, actually.
Have you seen the
Mystery
trailers for
Christmas.
Hugo?
Yes.
Right, they all make it look like a bit of a magical mystery
They do.
thing. And yet the film is actually about filmmaking in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Now, watching, I thought, it's going to be like Harry Potter. I was a mechanical person, and there's this kid who lives behind a clock. And then it's actually just a really good story about the love of cinema. And the two didn't marry up, because people went as families, and were then presented with this quite serious story that was shot in a beautiful way, but they were then disappointed. I think that might happen tomorrow.
Right.
For some people. For me, I had no issue with it at all. I loved it. Every aspect of it was just perfect.
Because it did struggle in its first weekend, didn't it? It only recouped, what was it,
Yeah.
40 million in America and 70 worldwide or something.
Yeah.
And they were worried it wouldn't recoup the 180.
But again, I think,
budget.
is that something to do with the fact that it hasn't been marketed so widely and openly? Like, do people go and see films like, look at the soaps. You can buy a magazine the week before the soaps are on TV that will tell you everything that's going to happen that week in soaps, and they still have the biggest viewing figures in the world on TV.
That was my next point, as it were, because this is one of the few original, I call it big budget films we'll see this year.
Yeah.
Star Wars. Age of Ultron, Second Avengers, part of a wider universe. Ant-Man, part of a wider universe. Although a completely new character, people will still go, it's Marvel, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
And the same with a lot of other ones coming along. Suicide Squad, that's part of an established universe. Jurassic World is part of an established, set of films. Whereas this is brand new. So is there that element of, I don't know what it is, I'll wait for DVD. And that maybe, you and I are both the same. We love the cinema experience.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore it. And I was over the moon when the Lux opened because it gave me somewhere I could walk to and experience that, whereas opposed to the fucking showcase and where my feet stuck to the floor. And I wonder if, I digress slightly, if it is because this is this brand new thing, and as you said, it wasn't heavily marketed.
Yeah.
It didn't splash what it is all over the walls as some other films will do, going, look at us with our big sci-fi epic, or our big holiday romance, our rom-com, with this, with that.
Yeah.
Even things like Shaun of the Dead, it basically did romantic comedy with zombies.
Yeah.
It plastered it all over it, but that was partly tongue-in-cheek Mickey taking of the way things work, but on the same time, this is what this film is.
At the same time with Shaun of the Dead, you knew it's the people who made Space.
Exactly.
So you knew half what to expect. The problem with this film is...
No idea.
You've got a director who's made no films aside. Yep. You've got
George Clooney, who's not a big... as a lead, I don't think.
But also, there's no guarantee. He's not a genre type.
No.
Like, you look at The American... And then you compare that to Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
And then you compare that to... Exactly. Like, he's an actor. He's an actor's actor. So he will work well. He's exceptional in this film. And yet he's completely outacted by the young woman.
Young lady.
She was in Under the Dome, which I really rated. In this, she is exceptional. The whole film is just really, really well cast. And the biggest thing for me was it's an effects movie where the effects are secondary to the story. They're secondary to the performance. There's one scene, and it's not a spoiler, but basically you go to this Tomorrowland and you witness a building being built. Now, there's two machines, and they're going upwards, and they're kind of almost like a 3D printer. It's just printing a building right in front of you. And you see this building get put together. And this is... like incredible science, like it's the most amazing thing. 10 years ago, that would have been the central special effects moment of that film, It's on screen for 45 seconds, and it's casually
Just
there.
carry on.
It's just there. And that's what I loved about it. It didn't sit there and go, oh, yeah, like some effects movies do, where they go, oh, do you know that bit where the dragon is, or this bit where this is? This is a film where effects are going to happen, so let's just leave them there. They're going to happen anyway, and then carry on with what we want to do. But yeah, I think it's going to struggle. I think it will do really well on DVD and Blu-ray. I think it'll be respected longer term, but I think it was a risky move to not promote it heavily as a new IP. But then, I dare say, if you'd explain exactly what the storyline was to people, it probably would have still struggled, because it's a high concept film.
Before we move away from the Thursday movie show, can I just say I'm quite looking forward to the new Supergirl series.
Yes, I've watched the pilot.
I haven't seen the pilot. I watched the 3 or 4 minute teaser they did.
Well, the pilot got
a lot of
leaked.
people are like, it's just the hills or the valleys with the red cape. Which is just so dismissive, ridiculously dismissive from the off. It's just like, you basically just looked at who's in it, what it is, sort of Supergirl, and it's just drawn some shitty conclusion because you're a twat.
What they should have said is, it's Smallville, but better.
Yeah.
Because Smallville was just a teen drama that just happened to also be the early years of Superman. That's what Supergirl should be.
That trailed off quite a lot towards the end, I thought, as well.
And the Supergirl pilot has entirely piqued my interest. I mean, Arrow is very good. Flash is slightly better, although I don't want to admit it because I hate Flash. And Supergirl isn't something I can admit I was looking forward to.
So I need to pick Arrow up again because we got behind the episodes and we just never caught up. No. I need to pick that one up again.
And with Supergirl, it's the point of it's a very risky move, because even the movie with Helen Slater wasn't great because the character's not that strong. Pardon the pun. It's just a case of, it's just Superman, but it's a girl.
It's Superman's
yeah, and it's like, she looks better in a suit, so that's good. Oh, she's blonde and she's a bit sexy. Yeah, that's Supergirl. No, what this does is it looks at the challenges of people's attitudes towards female superheroes. I mean, that 4-minute teaser you've seen, it's very much self-referential. It knows what people expect of it, and then it still excels itself.
And that's why I'm quite looking forward to it, because it is hooking into that stereotype.
And I think the fact that the first episode has been leaked, I wonder how much of a leak that was as a deliberate let's release this to get some hype behind it, because everyone I know who's seen it has enjoyed it and is looking forward to the series. So it just seems that DC struggle with their films, but they're excelling with their TV, and that's all going to be a good thing. Tapped Out has updated now. We've got rid of the Terwilliger, which didn't seem to outlast its welcome, really. It just never seemed possible to get all the things you could make.
No, and I've got the Opera House, I've got the Monsanaro campus, and obviously Unlock Bob and Cecil. But I don't know. It was unintrusive, as we said. Didn't feel like a mad rush. You kind of knew you wouldn't be able to get everything just because of the ridiculous amount of stuff you need to build certain things. Equally, it almost didn't feel like it went anywhere.
No.
It was just like, here's some jobs they can do to collect corn or masks or DNA. Okay, cool, now you can upgrade this to get some extra seats for your opera house, which is okay because it rounds out my opera house. I've got seats on each side, it looks nice and square and neat and lovely. But I don't know, it just didn't feel like it went anywhere. And that's a little, I don't say frustrating, but it's just kind of like, go through the motions. It's varying up what you do every day.
I think
anyway.
What I wish I had done is I wish I'd looked at it with a bit more strategy to start with. Like, if I wanted to unlock something specific, I should have only sent them on the jobs for DNA. Where I think the problem was I based it on times, so I want to check it every 4 hours, so I'll put them on the 4-hour jobs. And the problem is, the 4-hour jobs were split across everybody.
Yeah.
So I never really gained enough of anything.
No.
But I think it was
within, very higgledy-piggledy.
Yeah.
Some were 2, some were 6, some were 4,
and
8, 12, 16.
That's probably maybe a fault on my side where I could have used my time more effectively and planned it out. But then what I'm unlocking is the extended Terwilliger family. And the point that I liked about it was, if that had been, right, you can unlock Lyle Langley, you can unlock all these different spin-off characters, but only if you really pull the work in, that would have been annoying.
Yeah.
The Terwilligers, I don't care.
No.
I'm happy. I got Cecil and I got Bob. and they're the two that you want.
They're the only two anybody cares about.
Exactly. I unlocked the mum, Dame Judith.
Yep.
I unlocked her, and I don't know how. I just did.
Just got enough stuff.
So I've got her around town. I don't really care that I've got her, and that's kind of not. I think that's actually the strength of the period of time. I think what it did is it gave you something where there was something happening. You could do something. It was with a focus, but it was never anything you felt genuinely gutted you didn't get.
Yeah.
And then they added Lunch Lady Dora.
They did.
Which freaked me out because I was like, hang on, Lunch Lady Doris, not Lunch Lady Dora. And so I looked into it, and apparently 2 years ago her name was changed to Dora because the original voice artist who did Lunch Lady Doris died. So they then had her in a mostly silent role for a while, and then he brought it back, but she started to become referred to as Dora as a respect for the original voice artist. So I did look at it going, what? They've made a mistake. Oh my god, this is terrible. Because we'd only talked of all the characters we'd like to see. That was one of the characters I said I'd quite like to have seen. And so to have Springfield Slaughterhouse and Lunch Lady Dora was, and I wish I could choose to call her Doris, but if that's canon, then I'll have to stick with it. But that was quite nice, just as a surprise thing that popped up. And now the event's finished, Cecil's got missions specific to post-event, which we've not really seen too much of. Normally, the event finishes and that's it.
You can be, quite a lot of the time. So
I like the fact that they're still there. I did worry that they were going to be imprisoned and they'd been taken out again, like Santa was after Christmas. I thought there was going to be something happening like that. So it wasn't the great success in terms of getting loads of characters, but I got some new buildings. Like I said, I got some new buildings. Got 2 characters who I really did want. I didn't have to play really hard to get those. I pretty much given them. So yeah, it's all good.
It's all good. One thing I wonder if it's going to trip them up is that the Miss Springfield has been referenced in a couple of different quest lines. One with Fat Tony and Krusty, or his Opera Krusty.
Yeah,
she's in there, got a little speech bubble. Her head appears in that. And now with the new level, which I've just knocked, is a Joe Quimby quest.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's periodically in the TV series seen with her, but she is locked behind a premium building.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I wonder if they're going to get themselves into a bit of a knot.
Well, sometimes they've done this with, at the moment, there's a mission for Ralph about the dinners, where he wants sushi, so you have to get the sushi place that's a premium one. And there was one for Lily Lumpkin, where if you get it, there's one for Millhouse with the gym, if you get the gym instructor guy. So sometimes they do it, which I think just validates the premium purchase.
Yeah.
And it kind of says, look, okay, that's not just a building and a character, that will allow you to continue a quest line. But what I do like is at least that quest isn't sitting permanently on your screen.
Yeah.
It's there, but I just wish they'd put that in the store, unlocks a building, plus this character, plus this quest, if you've got these characters. That would be quite a good selling point for me.
It would open things up a little bit more.
Certainly.
Yeah.
The other thing I wish they'd change is how they list characters in the store. Because at the moment, they've just added the Bob clones as characters you can purchase for premium. But they list them as characters. Now, I think decorations should be in decorations. Like the people on the waterfront.
Yeah.
The boardwalk, rather. I don't want them as characters, because you buy them, that's it. There is no mission. If there's no mission, then it's not really a character. So hopefully they'll sort that out at some point. But yeah, it's we'll just see where this one goes and go from there. I've been killing lots of people this week on Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Got it on Xbox One finally.
Cool.
Didn't really like it.
No.
But it's because it's changed a lot of things and I'm resistant to change.
I'm just not a big fan of beat-em-ups.
Street Fighter 5 is on the way, isn't it?
Yes.
I've recently been showing a lot of stuff. The problem with Street Fighter I also have is they never change anything. There's always Ryo, there's always Ken, there's always this.
M. Bison's been announced.
Yeah. And somebody said, look at the evolution of M. Bison as a character. It's like, what? He's changed his hat colour or something? It's pretty much the same character. They're just beefier now. With Mortal Kombat, this is set years after the last ones.
Okay.
So you've got the children of some of the characters in there. You've got a lot of people have died, and so you've got new versions of people.
Right.
Or completely new characters. Now, for me, that's a very bold thing to do.
Yep.
To sit there and go, hey, all those 25 characters you really like? Well, we've got rid of 22 of them. And now you've got to like all these new people you've got no emotional attachment to or any retro-tinged greatness. Some of the characters were ridiculous, but they were a ridiculous character you played when you were 12.
Yeah.
So it was okay, and you had some sort of nostalgia for it. Whereas now it's a beat 'em up that has to stand on its own feet.
And it doesn't do it very well.
It does it very, very well.
Okay.
But I'm struggling because I want it to feel like the Mortal Kombat games I used to play, and instead it feels like an actual next generation Mortal Kombat.
So it's almost like the name actually holds it back.
No, see again, they're calling it X. They're specifically saying, this is the next one. This is like it's there. It is a new generation of it, and it's incredibly well put together. The combo system is fantastic. It's incredibly hard to get into and play really well.
Right.
But I want that from a fighting game. I don't want it to be I can just walk through and hit just random buttons and win. I want to be able to feel like I earned that win.
Yeah.
So from all that, it's doing everything right, but I just kind of wish it wasn't this new storyline. Where I am in the story at the moment, there's basically Shinnok, which is one of the gods from the earlier games, is sort of back on the scene. He's been imprisoned in an amulet, and now there's like this uprising in Outworld going against a guy who took over from Shao Kahn, which is a character called Total Khan. And so you play the story, and you
sounds like a Japanese game show. Total Khan.
Well, he's like a Mexican god style character, and it's very good. It really is. And the stage moves are great. So with Injustice, Gods Among Us, and Mortal Kombat's in the past, they've done these kind of stages where you could like punch them off a building and things. There was one which I was with my oldest, and I was just sort of showing him through because I was like, well, I don't want you playing it, but I was going to show you how this works because his mate had got it. And there was a woman with a big stick, and she was interactable. And I thought, oh, brilliant, you're going to take the stick and just clock him. And so I grabbed it and then swung the stick and the old lady directly into the head of the person next to me and got an achievement for hitting someone with an old lady who then dies in a pool of blood slowly.
Yeah.
And I just thought, it's brutal, but that's hilarious because I never expected to suddenly just pick up an old woman and hit someone with her. Yeah. And yet it's Mortal Kombat, and that's what you should expect. It is gory and it is ridiculous and over the top. And I've been playing the iOS version, so I'd sort of hoped it would all gel together nicely.
Does it?
They won't let me sign in on the iOS version at all now.
Yeah.
So I can't actually
see if it gels
put my
or not.
stuff together because stuff you do in one unlocks stuff in the other. So I've got support or emailing me saying that basically what I need to do is delete the app completely and reinstall it.
Right.
That should fix it. But they can't guarantee that I won't lose everything I've done.
Right.
And it's like, well, I've got 4 or 5 weeks worth of progress now. I don't really want to lose that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be playing with that this week, and then I shall feedback next week. But luckily, iOS has been salvaged this week by Star Wars Card Collector, which I'm starting to hit a stride on.
And I'm starting to get bored of.
Is it because of all this in trading? It's not just too easy.
It's not just the trading. I'm just generally getting a bit fed up of it now. The in trading's fine. If I wanted to get this, and this, I could pitch stuff to you and Gav right now while we're talking. Yeah, and that would be fine, and I could unlock stuff. But it's just that feeling of hollowness that we've talked about before, and unlocking some of the, call them limited edition cards, like the quote cards and things. That's quite cool. You go through sort of that packs, but at the same time you'll keep buying packs to unlock those. Yeah. I'm just accumulating more and more white cards, which I've got nothing to do. They're no good to me anymore. I've unlocked the achievements for them. I've unlocked the blues as well, unless I'm just asking you or Gav to do me a favour and say, look, I'll give you these 9 whites, you can trade on for whatever you want for that 1 red I need to get the next bit. And it just feels kind of hollow. And as I said, it's kind of cool, that moment you get one of the, call them the rare ones, the shinies almost of the Star Wars Collector's World. But I just I think I'd go in, log in once a day, get my credits. I'll maybe open 3 or 4 packs of the special ones just to see if I get one. Yeah. And then that's it. Maybe I'll do a couple of trades just to nudge things along. And I don't know.
I think it's it. I think what it needs now is the game really needs something that's a level playing field. So rather than it be, look, if you want to get this chase set, you've got to trade for it. Yeah. Have something that is possible for every player to get on their own feet, you know. Yeah. For me, I'm now in the point where I'm going for all the yellows. Yeah. I'm getting towards working through the list on yellows. And that's a slog because the percentage of getting a yellow is 2 to 4% at tops normally. So that kind of, it's got to the point now where it feels like I'm, you know, when you're at the end, almost at the end of completing an album, and you just wait for those few stickers left, and I've kind of got that enjoyment. That's what I'm liking.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, got yellow ones, brilliant, perfect. That's nearly that set complete. Or Gavel has suddenly got one, and I've got one, and I'll spot
that
the
element of swapping stickers around. We talked about it before. That's gone.
Yeah,
there isn't a case of has anybody got the sticker X,
no.
and they go, yeah, I've got it, and you can go, well, I've got duplicate of this. I will happily give you these 10 duplicates for that one.
And that's the problem with the rare ones. People don't want to trade them away. No. They just want to trade down. Really, they want to take your rare one and give you some to collect.
Yeah,
and that's the point. Like there are people right at the very top. At the moment, they're doing a Rogue Squadron set.
Yes.
And if you get one in the first pack, it then unlocks a second pack for you to get the second card.
Yeah.
Which then unlocks the third pack for you to get the third card. And then once you get the third card, you go back to the first pack, and you can then get a different coloured version of the first card. So it's almost like saying, look, we know that you don't like the fact that these are hard to get hold of, but we're going to give you the opportunity. I really like that. It's the first set I've actually want to complete because I feel like I could.
Yeah, but the other frustration I've kind of found with that is, granted, I've not gone at it as hard, but be like, go in, I'll get a handful of packs. I've probably bought a handful of those packs over the last couple of days while they've been out, using the credits I've accumulated, and I haven't opened a single one. And the problem is, it's not that I haven't picked up one of the Rogue Squadron cards, because obviously the point is, you don't get them every time.
Yeah, it's 1 in 15, I think.
Yeah. But then you kind of reach a point where you're like, well, how many packs, am I genuinely going to have to open 15 packs? Because the Firebrand ones, between all of those, I must have opened, God knows how many packs, not landed a single one.
Yeah.
And I know that's part of it, but the problem is, you're just adding more white ones all the time.
Yeah.
I think I've picked up a couple of reds along where it goes new card, but I've done the blues. They're no good to me.
What I would like to see is them do like a trade a chunk of cards to get you a guaranteed colour.
Yeah.
So if you could say, right, trade in 50 whites for a guaranteed yellow.
Yeah.
Not necessarily one that you need, but just can I get a yellow for trading?
Because at least you go to somebody else and say, let's swap yellows.
Every moves up. And then, of course, you're left with things. This I've started, though. This is
Rebel
risky.
Attacks.
This is actually top Star Wars trading cards.
Nice.
That,
I got some free Marvel ones when I bought Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier, yes. They're quite hard to get hold of. I tried to get those for my boy because it's the Winter Soldier and Captain America, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of others in there as well, I think. I think it might be a Marvel thing.
Yeah. I managed to get the Winter Soldier one, just him, the photo card, and I had to pay £6 online to get that one. Because they only put it in the first print of the DVDs as well.
I better check what I've got when I go.
Yeah, well, there you go. It is worth a look. But yeah, so I'm now collecting actual cards, but I kind of wish that those would tie in with this app.
Right.
That would have been quite cool.
It would have been.
Because they've done Star Wars Rebels in the Card Collector app.
Yep.
So it would have been nice if there's some... Actually, I didn't look to see whether the packs have got a... Because the Marvel ones we talked about before had a code, didn't they, inside? No, these don't have any digital code at all, which also seemed a shame after they did the Marvel one.
Yeah.
But yes, these are based on the Star Wars Rebels animated series, which is great. My boys really like the actual attacks game, so to have a Star Wars one was quite a push. Technobabylon.
You did a proper review and everything.
Yeah, well, we were sent this as a pre-release code, and we had a proper embargo and everything. And as is often the case with pre-release stuff, particularly on Steam, which this one was, the version you get as a press isn't always the final piece. Sometimes there'll be bugs in it or problems. So while I was reviewing it, they then issued a new version of it, a new build of it. But the problem was that then cleared all of your save data.
Right.
So, in fairness to Wadget Eye, who put this out, what they did is they gave you a debug menu. So you could then jump to wherever in the game you were without losing your progress, which was quite a nice option. But it also allowed me to play around with the debug menu for the first time in years. I remember getting it on Sonic where you could just do the things and get all the debug stuff up. I think it was one in Mortal Kombat, which was dullard. Would give you the blood-on options. But in short, Technobabylon is a point-and-click adventure game like what you would have played in 1993.
Yep. Okay.
But it has a branching storyline. Not a branching storyline. It has a storyline with branching character development and, like, activities like you would never play
Right.
in a point-and-click adventure game. It has multiple character control, like in Manic Mansion, but at the same time, it has points where you can choose a red pill or a blue pill type
Right.
thing, like Mass Effect. It's a point-and-click game that's learnt from the last 20 years of storytelling in games,
Yep.
and yet put it into that very homely, very comfortable feeling point-and-click interface. And the two marry up perfectly. It is a glorious game to play. Because it feels dated immediately. It feels like a really old-fashioned game. But it feels incredibly progressive because of how the storyline's handled.
Yeah.
And the storyline basically is, it's set in this town... Jeez, I can't remember what it's called now. We'll call it New Haven. Don't think it is New Haven. That's something else.
Can we call it Malice? It's a town called Malice.
A town called Malice. And
yeah.
there's a girl who is in what's called... Oh, Jesus, I can't remember the thing now.
This is the best
I wrote a
review we've ever done.
I know. Oh, gee, the Trance. Called the Trance.
Okay.
That's it. And it's basically like an interactive internet, so you plug yourself into it. So pretty much like the Back to Life, Better Than Life machines in Red Dwarf, that kind of thing.
All the internet and Futurama.
Exactly. And it's kind of created these trance dens where people go and they'll hook themselves up and they'll put themselves on intravenous drip and they'll stay in that world because it's better than being poor in the real world.
Right.
And it's kind of an illegal activity and people get penalised for it. It looks at this girl, she's in there, she comes out of it, she's autistic, although they don't make a big deal out of that, but she only feels comfortable when interacting on the trance.
Okay.
So she comes out of it as sort of the prologue, and she finds that she's trapped in her apartment. But because she's trapped in the apartment, they use that as an opportunity to say, this is what it's like living in this city, being poor. There's a machine that recycles food. So you put your plastic in after you've eaten, and it'll recycle it into new cutlery for you.
Right.
You get this like glob of papery food to eat. Your clothes are printed for you, and then you just mulch them down, and then they'll print you off some new clothes. And it's all this benefit system where you're left in abject squalor, but everything's provided on the lowest possible level.
Yeah.
So I mean that's quite a horrible existence, really, and it's this whole dystopian future where the rich are living at the top of these great skyscrapers and the poor are barely living at all. And it's the whole city's controlled by this computer called Central, which is a lot like the computer from Minority Report,
Right.
where it's starting to predict people's behaviour, and a bit like Person of Interest for more recent relevance. And so you then take control of two agents from Cell, who are investigating a serial killer called the Mind Ripper, who's basically going into people's heads, stealing their memories, and then killing them.
Okay.
And so they've tracked him all over the place, and they find him on the roof of this building, and he jumps off, and then he flies with a jetpack, and Central says, no, there was never a ship in that area. You must have not seen something. So it's the start of this conspiracy that's...
Yeah.
The computer that's controlling the city is potentially corrupted. The agents aren't necessarily on the line. You got a girl who is in the trance and has some significance because she was locked in a room and somebody's supposed to blow her up. So there's all this stuff goes on, and the story never feels ridiculous. It does everything very well. It feels a lot like those old sci-fi point-and-click games, and yet the storyline could have been a big Hollywood blockbuster film. And it's come out on a low-budget indie title. It's about £12, I'd say £10.99 to buy.
Yeah.
It's an easy recommendation. It's a fantastic little game. You can read the review on the website if you're interested at home. And there's a free demo on Steam as well, so if you want to give it a go. All they'll do say to people is just try and look past the retro look.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to look at it and go, oh, that looks terrible. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like, you look at things like Thomas Was Alone, it's just a square jumping up and down. The storyline was there. Fez doesn't look brilliant, but what that does with pixels is impressive, and what this does with story makes it for any lack of what the game engine can actually do. So yeah, I really, really liked it, and it ran on the Falcon, which is nice. That'd probably run on people's phones quite easily if you were able to run Steam games on your phone, which most people can't. But if you could, you probably could. So yeah. But then, I don't know, the smallest thing this week was a game you're going to be talking about a lot of, I suppose.
A little bit.
And what's that?
You've been playing too.
I have been playing
Yeah,
too.
we've both been playing the same game.
On
And
different
it is
systems,
Destiny.
different pieces of content.
Yes.
But yeah, Destiny, House of Wolves.
Yes, came out last week. Last Tuesday.
The Queen opened the reef.
She did. And I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's not without its flaws. So,
I've noticed some of these flaws on
yeah.
Twitter.
Now, we kind of talked about the Dark Blow a lot before. I had a love-hate relationship with the Crotus End raid, mostly hate. This comes without a raid, of course, but it has the Prison of Elders, which is that kind of like firefight horde mode style, and the Trials of Osiris. Now, because of the Bank Holiday weekend, I will put a disclaimer, but I haven't tried the Trials of Osiris myself yet.
Right.
But Synaptic Fair, who I play with quite a lot, used the word clusterfuck several times, and I asked him about it because he had a go with a couple of the guys he plays with online, who are quite good, to be fair. I've done raids with them. They're pretty handy in these situations. He said they got annihilated.
Right.
So it does sound like Trials of Osiris is best of the best, which was kind of the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll give that one a go and report back on that one. I would like to try it.
There's a seller in the reef who will actually sell you tokens.
Yes.
To allow you to start with one.
Yeah, because you get some. He basically gifts you some to start with, but obviously they could be quickly lost.
Yeah,
if you
say
get
that's
so.
a slippery slope, because if it was Activision in their Call of Duty skin, they would have sold those tokens to people. Just go, that's all right, don't worry, that won't count as a loss.
At least they hook you in that way.
Yeah.
The story mission, there's 5 of them. If you include, there's a strike as well, and I quite like the little story. It utilises areas that are already in the game. Also, it hasn't added any new planets.
No,
it hasn't really revolutionised any of the existing ones. It's utilising what's already there. But in some senses, that's actually quite a positive, because some of the bits you go back to, I don't want to spoil the story for you, so you can experience. Yeah. But some of the bits you go back to, the first thing you do, are like, actually, that's quite cool. They've used that, and they've done the way they've structured it. Prison of Elders is probably the main one, because the story's the story.
Yeah.
And it's wildly different from what they did with Dark Below. It's just they've added a couple of extra steps in there. So you've got a bit more side story. Whereas what was Dark Below, 3 story missions, which is not a lot. They were good. I mean, they're okay and all, but yeah, I'm glad there's more of a story going on here. And I know Destiny and story is something of a running joke, and I understand why. So pinch yourself on there, folks. But I enjoyed the story, and I enjoyed the strike. But Prison of Elders is the one. It's both the big cornerstone, I think, of this new DLC. It's also the bit I've had the most issues with.
Right.
Not because of the way Prison of Elders is as such, but because of the disconnects, which have frustrated the hell out of me.
Now, I've had a lot of disconnects this week, in general, so I think there is clearly something not quite right.
Yeah, so whether the new DLC servers have just got overloaded.
Yeah, because I was being kicked out of just patrols, so it was never I was doing anything too taxing. But the problem was I was only on a patrol. I wasn't right near the end.
Yeah. The Prison of Elders split into different difficulties. Was it 28, 32, 34 and 35?
Right.
28 is pretty straightforward, and we've blitzed through that a couple of times because we've got level 30 odd characters, so that's pretty straightforward. 32, obviously more challenging, because for every level you are below the mission level, you'll do like the 33% less damage.
Okay.
So if you've got a 31 character and a 32, you're doing less damage. Now, we got through that. The first time we did okay, actually. We're 2 titans, so the bubble was a big boost. That'd be one of my big tips. If you've got a tumbler and you're fighting with a bubble, fucking use it, because it is so valuable in the Prison of Elders. And then I think it was near the end of our second level 32 run. We're all trying to get our second characters some loot, that I got my first weasel.
Okay.
I was pissed, because we must have been in there for good 45 minutes, chipping away at this end boss. He had 5-10% health left, weaseled. Can't invite me back in when they're mid-fight. So, of course, the flares I was playing with, they ultimately died because they were down to 2 instead of 3. We started again, we just couldn't get back to the same point. We got blitzed, because it was quite late as well, so I think we were all pissed off by then. Yeah. But I think Synaptic got booted as well. and then I got booted, and and then we tried a level 34 strike. Fuck me, that was hard work. So the closer you can get to the level that matches the mode you're in, it's just essential. You've got, I mean, to do the 34, you need at least 3 33s with the firepower to do it. Because it is just hellish once you get to the last couple of stages, if not. But it is a challenge.
Which is what people want.
Yeah. But though I must admit, I did do a little bit of reading up on... I think I ended up on the subreddits for Destiny.
Okay.
For the level 35. And I am intrigued by it because there's a lot of people who say, I'm glad I've done it, but I'd never done it again. Literally in those words, because it's just like, it's such a massive ball ache. You've done it, you've achieved it, you can hang your hat on that. Fuck off, am I doing that again? So I'm intrigued to see where that goes, because reading it does sound like you really need to be on the ball as a team. Yeah. Which is great, because
that's what Destiny's strength is.
And it's obviously pushing that team element, which I like the idea of, but I can understand if it doesn't go your way. And as we found with the level 34, when it feels like the world's against you.
Well, this is something I've been finding now that I'm at a level where I can actually start accessing nice season pass content. I basically got quite lucky in that I got quite bored and I decided to do a daily strike.
Yep.
And from the daily strike, I got a decent piece of armour, which bumped my light level up.
Yep.
And that pushed me into Dark Below. And then I thought, I don't like the light element, but I quite like the idea now that I'm getting these missions where they're giving me stuff that actually benefits.
Yeah.
Like up until you hit kind of missions like Dark Below and onwards, the missions aren't giving you exotics or legendaries. They're not giving you anything that really helps. You've got to really hope you just get a loot drop, a random drop. And that was the bit that pissed me off, because I didn't want it to be a random drop game. I wanted it to be something where I felt some sort of ownership of what I was doing. And so then when I'm getting missions where, this one you will get this sort of piece of armor or this sort of weapon or whatever, suddenly it was like, actually, now I've got a chance of bumping my light level up a bit more, and then a little bit more. And I played through the first of the Dark Below missions as a level 22. I had no problem with it whatsoever. First timed it on my own. Nobody helped me at all, which has been pretty much my Destiny experience. Just go for all my own. But I'm playing as a warlock. I played through 3 characters now to level 20, so the controls and the combat and stuff I'm pretty handy with, because doing some of those missions on your own is like you say, it's a ball ache. So taking on those last 3 on Mars where the statues are coming to life. And you're being surrounded on all sides. I mean, if you're just one of you, you'd quite quickly learn how to fight.
Yeah, for sure.
And to defend yourself and work out the best places to position yourself and where things are going to spawn from. And so I kind of felt, well, actually, this will be quite interesting to see how I do with the Crota missions. The first one, absolutely walked it. Second one, where I had to rescue the Russian computer program.
Yep. Rasputin.
And there was that kind of big wizard thing. Couldn't do that one. It was just too much at the level I was. Yeah. But it was high level than what I was. Yeah. So I thought, right, I'll come back to that. I'll keep playing some more. So I started playing the daily strikes. I started just playing general strikes. Going through on the right hand side, you've got the Crucible, and then you've got the
strike playlists.
Yeah. I started going through the playlists, and that has been my jam for the last week, because they're missions that are actually giving me a benefit.
So the other advantage doing that is you get the Vanguard marks.
Yeah.
And since House of Wolves came out, the stuff you can buy, assuming you've got the right level, Vanguard level and all this sort of stuff, and enough marks, all that new gear is instantly at the old light limit. Yeah. It's instantly 36. Because obviously it's now building onto the new stuff where you go up to level 34.
Yeah.
So you need a different set of materials. Was it etheric energy? Which I don't think any of us have managed to get a drop for yet, but it does mean for those maybe a little bit behind, call it the House of Wolves level, or just starting out, or just picking the game up again for the DLC, you can catch up quite quickly
That seems to
within
be what
in
was
Destiny,
doing,
in Destiny, because it is a grind at times, and I'm having to do it again now with my hunter. I need to grind back up the Vanguard marks to buy another bit of armour to tip me over the edge into level 32 or 3. And the same with my Warlock, and obviously you're on the same boat. But if you're doing the strikes, the Vanguard marks help even more now because you can buy this armour and instantly go. You can probably go up to 2 levels.
Yeah,
being
and
in the
this
early
is
20s.
it. And I've now got the self-resurrection perk, which really helps when you're a lone player as well. I mean, obviously with the strikes, I'm not having that. I'm being able to getting matchmates, but normally I'm only getting one other player. I'm getting only ever 2 or 3. The third usually will drop in towards the end. But by that point, it's very often you've fought 2 sub-bosses before you get to that point. I did manage to break the game, if you saw on Twitter.
I didn't.
Where on the Septis Prime strike,
Right.
I thought, hang on, that ship's dropping that tank down. I wonder if I can just fire a few shots off early on. So I fired a rocket, which shot across, and as the tank fell down, it hit the tank, which stopped the animation. And the tank just hanged in the air. And wouldn't move, wouldn't fight back, wouldn't do anything. Let me just very briefly show you. I took some pictures of it and tweeted it to Bungie. I went, I've broken your strike. I'm sorry.
You're wasting your time. I tweeted Bungie help several times in my angry rage about error codes and got no fucking reply.
Here we go. So that is...
Oh, beautiful. Yeah,
and it just,
well done.
It stayed there permanently.
Yeah.
The problem was, none of its weak spots opened.
Right.
So you couldn't shoot the legs, you could just shoot the head for about...
6 hours.
Basically. We were just wandering around. What I found out from this is if you run out of ammo, after about 5 minutes, it just refills your ammo for you automatically.
Really?
Which I never knew.
Well,
but when you've got a level where there's no enemies, that's what you sort of thing you'll find out. We finished it at the end. We went through. I was quite pleased that we did go through. But that was just in 2 minutes we managed to do that much, which was quite good. So I've been having quite a lot of fun with it, and I'm starting to feel, because of the matchmaking, forcing other players to play alongside me, I'm starting to feel the Destiny game.
Yeah.
And I think this is something I've been very clear about before. I don't want to play with strangers, really.
No.
But without that team, the game, you're missing 2/3 of the game. And I need now to start getting, from listeners, I mean, I've had Welshbeck on the Xbox One, and he keeps saying to me, we'll play sometime. I need to actually start doing that.
Yes, you do.
And set up a couple of evenings where I sit down and I say, right, let's do this, or let's hit that. And then enjoy it with people who clearly like me.
See, the other thing is that you start to get used to each other's styles a bit as well.
Yeah.
And who's got what character and what strength and how they play. You start to build tactics. So even though you do the same stories, missions over and over, you start to build your tactics, those missions. So especially with the Prison of Elders, when you go up a level, you're like, right, well, we know where we want to go and stand and how we want to play this. So you've already kind of got a strategic thing. So even though you're playing the same mission again, obviously the enemies are that bit stronger, but it is that more strategic affair. The debate still rages, obviously, whether, it's a Marmite game.
Yeah.
And is it worth 20 quid? I'll probably get 20 quid's worth out of it.
Yeah.
Because I'll play it that often.
I mean, up to
For
now,
other
I'm
people,
certainly not.
Yeah, I mean, you spent 35, well, the equivalent of 20 to 30 quid because you bought the special edition.
But
and you've only just started it.
But here's the thing, I'm still trying at it.
Yeah.
There's enough there to make me want to play it. That's the weird thing about Destiny. On the surface, there's not much to sell the game. It's a very light storyline.
You've seen it pretty quickly once you've...
Yeah.
You think you have. I think once you get past level 20 and you can do more, it opens up a new corridor.
That's the thing.
But again, you've still seen quite a lot of it quite quickly.
I was talking to a guy the other day, because he jumped into the fire team chat, which I'd never really done before. And he went, how you doing? I went, oh, yeah, good. He was like, yeah, because we basically stayed on and played a second one. He was thanking me for helping him. Because we'd done the Archon Priest daily.
Right.
Which had a couple of the modifiers on.
I did that with a couple of randoms as well to get the...
He was angry and something else.
Yep.
And it was 45 minutes we were fighting that end boss. And there's one where he'd stood on top, there's like an aerial tower in the centre nearly.
Yep.
And he'd got to the top of that with a rifle, was firing down and nothing could really hit him. But then he got fucked by a stealth vandal.
Right.
Just sniped him straight across. So I ran round, came up in that cave at the top right hand side, jumped out of the window and flew up, revived him as I fell down, turned around, pulled the gun and shot an enemy that was about to hit me. And he was saying that he saw that whole thing happen as he dropped to the ground, and it was the most filmic thing he'd ever seen. And I said, I've never felt that in a game.
Yeah.
Like, when it works really, really well. And it works because it's you and other people working together. And he said that he often finds Destiny is a bit like the puzzle box from Hellraiser. Like, every time you solve one bit, the hooks are into you, and it's pulling you further in and further in, until you get to the point where you're punishing yourself by doing these things that are just not much fun to play, but for some reason you keep playing them. And he said he's never had it with a game. Like most games, he'd just have given up on if it was something that was that much of a... Not the challenge, but he said the challenge feels like a challenge that's worth pulling away at.
Yeah.
So, I'm keeping on with it. The only thing that's pissing me off at the moment is I've got, similar to when Crota came out, they had the sort of the sword wielding people just randomly around. Now there's one of the bloody wolves. Like queen.
They're different ones on different planets.
But every time I'm trying to just do a normal patrol, and one of them is stalking me, and I'm like, well, I can never do that now. I'm going back to orbit. Fuck it. I can't hit it. It's just question marks. Like, there's nothing I can do.
You've not got the power yet.
No. Yeah. So that's basically ruins that area for me. So I have to go to orbit and go back down and then try and hope that it doesn't spawn anywhere else. It's just where it is. But again, that's a motivator to keep leveling up. It was very satisfying to be able to go into that basement that when I first played Destiny, there were question marks
you go, ooh, what's this?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
And now I can actually go in there and with about 5 shots finish them bastards once and for all, and then go out and wait for them to respawn and go back down again. Yeah, and again, that's right, over and over, like you killed me. That's what I'm going to do. But no, I'm going to, hopefully, the next couple of weeks, once I've got a job sorted out properly, I will be hopefully on for a regular nightly, and then, or regular weekly rather, not nightly, that'd be mental. And hopefully I'll be able to put together a nice little team and enjoy it even more, because I really want the Prison of Elders.
It is fun.
It's
the
good. Sort of thing that
As
I
say,
want.
If you overreach, it's brutal. It would just smash you down.
All I wish with both those pieces of DLC, there was something for a level 20. To say, you know what, here's a
That's
very
been
low...
the criticism from the start. Even when it first came out, the Vault glass was the piece de
That's
resistance.
26, isn't it?
Yeah.
For that one, because I've unlocked it on the map, but I can't actually take it on yet.
Might be able to do it slightly lower, like 25.
Yeah.
But that was like the piece de resistance, and it locked it away. And that's a few of the reviews I've seen of House of Wolves, and I can't say I particularly disagree. Is that all these different things point to some great ideas that were never maybe fully fulfilled.
Yeah.
So you look at some of the things, they're just brilliant, and a lot of people say the same. They've never repeated the same high or same success they did with the Vault Glass. Maybe because that initial, this is the first time type thing is gone. Because once you've done the raid, there we go. This is the raid. This is the big kahuna, and then it's all like, okay, great. And then they followed it up with a bit of a bum note, but you've still experienced a raid once before.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like people said about the Age of Ultron. They could never repeat that first moment when you saw all the Avengers together on screen in New York during the battle.
Yeah.
That big panoramic shot they spun around. They could never repeat that in Age of Ultron. Likewise, nothing else is ever going to be able to repeat the first time you did a raid on Destiny.
Yeah.
That shine's gone. But yeah, it's as I say, I'll get my 20 quid's worth out because I'll play it enough. But I can see why the debate is still there. Is this worth 20 quid?
Yeah.
Especially given we talked about Smite earlier on, which for 25 quid gives you a whole game and potentially quite a lot of DLC and add-ons. Whereas this is 20 on its own, plus the game, plus the other DLC if you buy. And
we don't know what's happening with Comet or the Taken King.
Whatever we talked about in the last episode, but it's
that's supposedly launching this year. It's supposed to be another huge big game changer. Could add.
And that's the thing is it going to be another one which gives you just enough to keep people playing, without giving too much away, kind of thing? Because that's pretty much what they've done again. To be fair, they've given you enough to keep you going for 20 quid.
Yeah.
As I said, it's debatable whether you think it's worth. I think that's probably a personal choice whether you think it's worth that. A lot of people probably say it isn't. I can see their argument.
I think I think the only thing I wish they'd done is not sold the season pass until Crota came out. I think giving people a chance to see what was in that content, because I know a lot of people who bought the season pass, lured in by their promise of the Sparrow, and then thinking, oh, well, there's like 1 strike and 5 single-player missions. Well, I spent £35 on that.
Yeah. I think if you're on the Xbox, it was 3 story missions, a strike, a raid. Or you can either just got raid and hard raid if you want to look at it that way, and then House of Wolves. So you've got 6 or 8 story missions, a couple of strikes.
Yeah,
and extra strike if you're on PlayStation.
If you said to me, there you go, for 10 story missions that aren't particularly long, that's £35, I'd say, well, that's a full game, but this doesn't feel like a full game.
But the counterpoint to it, in a sense, is you get out what you put in a way, because the Order 1866 was 6 hours. That was a full price game.
Yeah.
Well, I'll probably already played this for more than 6 hours for £20.
Yeah.
So there's some subjectiveness.
Exactly. It's like I said. There's for people who may have wanted it purely for what extension to the single player world, as such, if there is a single player in Destiny. The expansion isn't much of an expansion. If you're looking at it as Destiny as a whole, then it is massively expanded in the sense of new game modes, new ways to play the game, new ways to compete,
new incentives.
The Trials of Osiris stuff, like you say, is the best of the best. I've spoken to people who thought they were brilliant at Destiny, and then they played that, and they felt like the biggest idiots in the world.
Crying in their toilet for last week.
Because what you're up against is you're up against other people who also feel like that, and probably are more right than you are. And that's interesting, because you don't get that very often in PvP. So it's a ballsy move that I think is paying off.
It's one of those ones where those who can commit the time benefit, because they know the map, they know the nooks, the crannies, the sniping positions. Kind of like those who used to play Call of Duty. You get to know your little nooks and crannies, best sniping spots, best camping spots. But because it's only there for a couple of days, well, I might get the chance to play it for an evening, a couple of days, maybe. Whereas they might have the whole 2 days to pretty much go, right, guys, which map is it this week? Okay, let's have an explore. Let's feel our way. And by the end of the first day, they've already logged several hours and learnt their way around the map. Whereas another team might be just going, oh, this is our first one on this map. Where are we? Oh, shit, we're dead. Yeah. And that's not an easy... it does level the playing field. Everybody plays the same map all the time. So you do have that chance to learn. But obviously, if you're smashed down pretty early, you're already out and you have to go and buy your way back in again at materials cost, which isn't going to be for everyone. But yeah, it's probably woken a few up. As I say, it's going to be one that's probably going to end up being the real hardcore, even more so than the Iron Banner was supposed to be. I think this is going to be the realm of those who really want to go all out, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's I'm sure we'll be talking about it plenty more as the weeks go on, and obviously you'll try Trials of Osiris a bit more
and die quite a lot, probably.
Yeah, well, but that's the part of the challenge. I wouldn't want a game where you can just walk through. There's no point. Right, let's have some news this week. Game. Now, normally Game are not very good at their limited edition honouring. I've witnessed this myself and through other people. When I've ordered a limited edition, and then Game went, got to cancel your pre-order on that one, sorry. This week, however, they pulled a blinder by creating... no, they didn't create it, it did happen. Basically, a lorry carrying all of their limited edition copies of Splatoon, which comes with an amiibo, which I'm going to show you here, which is the Ink Squid amiibo.
Yes, it's exclusive. I saw that somewhere.
Yeah, it's exclusive to just that edition. Right. You can't get it anywhere else. They're never making it, apparently, anywhere else.
Okay.
So this is the email that went out from Game. Dear customer, we regret to inform you that the lorry transporting the Splatoon stock from Nintendo's European warehouse to Game UK has been stolen. Including this delivery was our allocation of Splatoon plus Squid Inkling amiibo. As a result, we were unable to honour your original pre-order due for delivery on the 29th of May. Due to these extraordinary circumstances, we will unfortunately not be getting any replacements for these missing items. Now, that's interesting to me.
Yep.
Like, at what point do Nintendo not think, hey, let's make sure that our biggest fans who pre-ordered a limited edition game, which is new IP, get their game, we'll probably make some more.
Yep.
Instead, they've just said no, they're not planning on doing it. And it says, we have no option but to substitute the Splatoon plus Squid Inkling in your order with a standard edition of your game. Now, this is where they could go, we'll do you a good deal here. You'll still receive your other pre-order stuff. We'll just be discounting this edition by £10 from $52.99 to $42.99. That's still a lot of money for the game you didn't want in the first place. Like, I bought this for a very specific edition, but hey, that's fine. And it said, we'll be sending your order by first class post on Friday the 29th, which means you won't even get it on launch day.
Yeah.
It's just a real mess. But Nintendo have said, and including as part of the Studios Games allocation, we work with Game to contact those customers affected. Whilst these unfortunate circumstances were out of Nintendo UK and Games Control, we apologise for disappointments may have occurred, but we're not going to be making any more. It just, to me, I don't understand why they're not just saying, it's okay, we'll make some more Squid Inklings. Or, something.
I think in the circumstances, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I appreciate it's not Game or Nintendo's fault. I do appreciate that. But equally, it's not consumed. I mean, surely the positive PR would be worth.
Yeah. I mean, all they need to say is, we can't guarantee it now, but within the next 3 months we'll get that to you as a replacement. That would be fine. Like, I'd be happy with that if I knew I was getting what I ordered. But not getting what you ordered, then getting a tenner knocked off because of the inconvenience, for then not getting a game on launch day. I mean, if that's posted on Friday, the other side, that's not getting to you until Monday.
At best.
Yeah. So then you've had a whole weekend, which is a launch weekend for an online shooter game. It's probably
But you basically just ring them up and tell them to fuck it and then go down Tesco's and buy it.
For the biggest game retailer in the UK, I'm very
But like you said,
surprised.
they've got history. I mean, Mass Effect 3
Yeah.
as well. I remember that. Sorry, we've had to cancel your pre-order. Can I get a refund? No. I said, what do you mean I can't get a refund?
Yeah.
And I mean, I spoke to the guy in the shop in Peterborough, and I kind of I started off my backup. Poor guy. I mean, he blatantly had a tongue lashing from every other person who'd come in that day, because you could kind of see the look in his eye, like, here we go again. And it sort of like took a breath and had a little chat with him. He said, we're on the front line.
Yeah.
We're the public face. And he said, I feel fucking terrible. He said most of the ones who've come in, because was it Easter holidays or something?
Yeah.
A lot of them, he said, they're young guys, they're teens and whatever, who've come in waiting for this. And they're just, distraught, because that was their big thing. And I think I used the store credit to buy Dead Space and a couple of other bits. Well, Dead Space 2, sorry, and a couple of other bits. So for me, well, fine. All right, I took it on the chin, deep breath. What have you got second hand? I came away with 4 games.
Yeah.
And then I bought Mass Effect 3 separately. So I didn't lose out in a sense.
No.
But the point, Game don't have particularly strong track record of these things.
No.
And as you say,
this is
for
the
the
thing,
biggest independent or biggest chain game store,
they should have more pull, or should demand it from Nintendo. Just say, look, okay, you will make
they should
more.
give
Because
customers a little bit more respect.
And that's the thing. Like, I know people, since working at Game myself, I know there are good people working for this company. There really are, really good managers, really good sales assistants. I like to think that when I was there, I was a positive force of change. The regional manager pretty much said, we'd like you to take the assistant manager role, because you're exactly the sort of thing this still is. At that time, I was going to open my shop, so I didn't take it. I kind of wish I had now.
Well,
with
hindsight's wonderful, isn't it?
But at the same time, is it any wonder that people have such a downer view of game when 1 minute they're paying for exclusivity on a product, which immediately puts people's backs up, because you think, well, hang on, I want to get that copy of that game, but I don't want to get it from you. I want to get it from my retail or my indie or somewhere else. And then when you're told that exclusive version's then not available for whatever reason, they just make you think, well, hang on a second. So now nobody can get it because you paid for exclusivity, so they put all of it on one truck, and now it's gone. But it also shows, to me, how bloody mental this whole Amiibo situation is getting.
Yeah.
That somebody would risk quite a hefty prison sentence for knocking off a lorry and stealing it. I mean, how are they going to sell these Amiibos? They're going to get out.
Of course they are.
But this is like the new drugs.
This is going to be, you and I should go to the Wisbeach Sunday Market.
That's where it's all going to be.
Because we're blatantly going to pick up something on a car boot.
But this could now be the most collectible Nintendo accessory.
And
Because if
that's what's
if they
gonna
never
happen.
make any more,
Yeah, and
It's
that's
gonna be
what's
like-
going to end up happening.
Yeah.
They're not going to go on eBay, that'd be too obvious, or at least
Yeah.
not right now. But car boots,
Yeah.
literally, if you roll down there, there's going to be somebody there who goes, I know what that is.
yeah.
Fucking, right. Margaret, well, get the fucking credit card. It's like, it's a Sunday card boot, mate, we don't take credit card. But give me a gold necklace. Like throwing jewellery at these blokes in balaclavas.
Yeah. For me, it's now going to be. I don't know what the availability is worldwide, because that will obviously affect the value. But say this is a UK exclusive, which I'm not entirely sure it is. But if it was, that is like a stolen. It's like somebody stealing artwork from the Technobabylon. You could never sell it, but it would have a value if in the right place.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I'll be interested to see how this goes, because they would sell like hotcakes, unlike games in Japan at the moment.
Yeah. Well, this was a couple of weeks ago, but it caught my eye it was on the metro.co.uk. Apparently, for the week ending March 17th, so we'll go back a few weeks, but only 235,000 console games were sold in Japan.
Okay.
Now, that sounds a lot in a sense, but equally that's a low for console sales in Japan.
Yeah.
Which surprised me, because that's been such a strong, or traditionally, it had been such a strong console market. Things have been on the wane for a while,
Yeah.
but then hitting that all-time low, the Xbox One has been out for about 18 months now. PlayStation 4 is about the same. There's quite a few decent games on the horizon with E3 and things. I know this is kind of a quiet period for new games. There are a few coming out, but generally people are waiting for the autumn AAA titles. But still, it kind of caught my eye because it was Japan, because it had that great tradition.
This is it.
Even with things on the wane. I don't know. Maybe it was just that it has been kind of, as I said, that it's been heading this way. It's been on the wane. Things are only going to get, I say, worse.
Well, there's two big factors in play in Japan at the moment. The first is the rise of smartphones.
Yep.
Smartphones are absolutely now. That's why Nintendo did that deal to put their games on phones.
Yep.
Is because Nintendo are losing console sales in Japan, whereas they can chuck them all on smartphones and still make all the money. People don't want a device as well as their phone.
Yeah.
And it happens here. I mean, you look how many people play on Android or their iOS devices more than a handheld games console. And most people would say, I've got a games console, it's right there. And need a 3DS or a PS Vita.
And
Because their games
has
are
changed
35 quid.
landscape. Yeah.
And these are 59p a game. Why would I spend...
And we've talked about that before. It's changed the demographic playing games.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot more, men, women, kids playing things like Candy Crush Saga.
Yeah.
And it changes the whole
Exactly.
perception of the industry
And
and the landscape.
Other area, and I remember reading this in an article like last year, was actually after the Fukushima disaster. It did change Japan's relationship with some entertainment products.
Yeah.
It was a very weird thing. Like a whole load of things just changed almost overnight. Just completely shifted in their buying habits and their trends. And video games were one of those things. Whether it was that because of the reliance on electricity, it pushed them away from that a little bit. I don't know. I never kind of never read into it. To the
reevaluated their lives.
But it was an interesting thing, and it did make me think, like, would that affect me? If I thought, well, hang on, my entire country's thing is based on this power system that, if it went wrong, could basically wipe out a big chunk of us, maybe that's not such a good thing. And maybe, do you want to play a game about death and destruction when you're seeing it
And
on
that
TV?
background is there at the moment.
And so instead, you've got things like Candy Crush and all these little mobile games that are light-hearted. They can be very mature, but the majority of them tend to be games. And I think maybe that's maybe a part of it.
It could be, as I said, it's not the busiest period in the gaming release schedule either.
No.
Leading up to E3 tends to be a little bit quieter. Then you get all the teaser stuff at E3. Then it's the summer, when not much comes out in the summer anyway, because people are actually going outside and having barbecues and breathing fresh air and seeing grass for the first time in 6 months. And then comes the autumn and the Christmas rush. So maybe, all the different things we just said, it is just sort of a cataclysm of different factors coming together.
Yeah.
But as I said, it just caught my eye because it was Japan. Traditionally, such a great consumer of video games in different forms. But as you said, obviously the mobile game is on the rise everywhere. But yeah, it just caught my eye, really. And I went, oh. So yeah.
Do you remember this game, Rob? Dark Echo.
Yes, you talked about on the podcast.
Do you
3 or 4
remember what
episodes
the
ago.
gameplay of this was?
The idea was he was blind. You tapped as if he was tapping his foot on the floor. Sound waves go out, and the idea is kind of like sonar.
Yep.
So it bounced off walls. If it was
Exactly.
red, it was enemies. You really liked it. I did download it, never got around to playing
Right.
it.
Here we go. This is a new game coming out, right?
Yep.
Called Perception.
Yep.
And it's from some developers from 2K Games
Mhm.
who worked on
Bioshock.
Bioshock Infinite, and others. Specifically with Bioshock. You played Bioshock, yeah?
Yes.
He designed the Xander Cohen levels with the artist.
Right.
So of all the levels, that was the creepiest of
They
them.
were definitely the creatures.
This is how his game looks.
Okay.
This is as wind is blowing over a house. It's a woman who's blind
Okay.
and sees through echolocation. So pretty much exactly the same as
Yep.
Dark Echo, but as a first-person exploration.
So that reminds me of two things. Just that screenshot.
Yep,
We're looking
yep.
at the one with the swing seat on the porch.
Yeah.
One is the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Yes.
The other one is the Matrix, where he sees the code to the
Yeah,
universe.
essentially. I mean, this is as she's approaching the house, as
Yep.
the wind blows over. She goes in the tech demo. This is on Kickstarter at the moment. It's called
Yep.
Perception. She basically feels drawn to this house, which has got a rather funny name in the sense of it. Where is it called? It did make me smile. Echo Bluff is
Right.
the estate, which funny really, considering everything she's going through. But she has an interpretation of what's around her based on echolocation.
Okay.
So, similar to this Dark Echo, if you stamp your foot, you can see the room. If you stamp your foot, you can attract the
Attention.
evil entity. At the same time, you've also got just general noises. So, she walks into the place, and there's suddenly clanking pipes. There's a problem with the pipe system.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that's distracting.
Yeah.
Because that's sending off all this noise that she can't concentrate. So, you've got to then solve that puzzle while also working around. The scale for it is very good. It's coming from a team that's got a good
Pedigree.
track record. And I dare say it was going to hit its funding almost immediately. And they're asking for $150,000
Okay.
with a launch of next year.
Right.
I'm now just loading Kickstarter to see whereabouts they are live as we're recording this. They're 55,000 in 3 days.
3
So-
days. So
Yeah, and that's of only 1,300 backers, though, which is also they put quite a lot of money in each. But yeah, it's one of those things where for a lot of people they've never seen something like Dark Echo, so this is a completely new concept.
Yeah.
To me, it takes that concept and runs with it.
Yep.
And so I don't know whether they played Dark Echo, but I don't think it matters. It's not ripping anything off. It's just doing what that did.
one backer pledged $411 or more. 3 $435 or more.
Yeah. Yeah, write a voicemail message if you play the $400 odd. You can actually be in the game. So yeah, there's all these things, but it's got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I think it's one that may do very well. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be like a big new horror scary game. And it's always nice when it hits Kickstarter like that because you can go, hey, we saw this when it was in its early stages. So there we go. Need for Speed,
Yeah.
rebooted.
Apparently so.
Properly rebooted. They're just calling it Need for Speed.
Ah.
And the developers are concentrating on a nighttime only racer.
Right.
So from sundown to sun up. That's if you don't know what nighttime is.
Yep.
So that kind of calls up a lot of thoughts of Need for Speed Underground, which did that quite well. But they said they don't want to just look at the last gen stuff. They want to go right back to when it was on the Amiga and the PC, when Need for Speed was there's the new Ferraris are in this one or
Yeah.
whatever. They said Need for Speed sort of lost its way a little bit by becoming too diffracted. And so what this is trying to do is actually say, what is a Need for Speed game? Well, it's about having a car that you can customise and you can care about. And that's what they're going for. And they're going to reveal it fully soon. But I'm quite excited. I like a good Need for Speed game.
I never really got into Need for Speed games,
No?
but I'm not a big racing fan.
No.
I think I've periodically over my console lifetime hooked in for a period to certain games. Sega GT on
Yeah.
the Dreamcast.
That was on Dreamcast, yeah.
I played that probably more than any other.
Yeah.
And there was one of the Project Gotham games I played quite a lot. And I think I had a little period with the 360 with one of the F1 games, possibly 2011 or something like that. It was a few years ago. But I've just never really been into my driving games.
No.
I think you are or you aren't. In a sense.
Well, this one, the bit that excites me is they are talking about multifaceted storylines that cross over.
Right.
Which is the bit I want. With a racing game, the thing I miss, and it's the same with fighting games actually, I think it's why I find them often unsatisfying, is I want a storyline. I feel like I'm doing something. It's why I enjoy Battlefield Hardline so much. Because it wasn't just a series of missions, it was a story. And this has got potential to do quite well, but obviously we don't know much. It's just nice early days, and we will see how we go with it.
Yep.
Humble Bundle.
Yes.
Next up, have done the Humble Nindy Bundle, which is indie games that are available on the 3DS and the Wii U.
Right.
In a Humble Bundle.
Yeah.
Pay what you want and get some great codes.
And we've talked about Humble Bundles before, with the Star Wars one we touched on, didn't we?
Yeah. Now, Humble Bundle traditionally is PC only.
Yep.
Now, this one has peeved me off a little bit because it is America only. Now, this is because the consoles are region locked.
Yep.
So
that's always a bugbear of mine when anything is region only.
Yeah.
Competition's always pissed me off because shipping is so easy these days.
Humble
Anyway,
wanted
I
it to
digress.
not be region locked.
Okay.
They wanted it to be worldwide because obviously it's for charity.
Yep.
So the more people can buy it, the more money they make for charity. Nintendo tried to make it work as a worldwide one, but of course, if somebody in the UK buys one, they need to make sure that they're given UK specific codes.
Yep.
Because the codes that work in the UK won't work in Spain, say.
Right.
So by concentrating on one market, it meant they could try the water out and see where it works. Now, obviously, the potential is the next one will be a PAL region bundle. They could do that in 3 weeks' time.
Yep.
And it's entirely possible, but they've had to be limited in this trial. What excites me is not so much the games that are in there. There are some brilliant games. SteamWorld Dig's in there, Ollie Ollie's in there. It's the fact that this is now console manufacturers putting out bundles of smaller games that can be quite awesome and make you money. I can't help but think that Sony and Microsoft are going to be watching this very carefully. Because EA have done very well. We talked about the Origin bundle that had huge amount of value in there for what it gives you. So now we're at a point where Nintendo are basically saying, hey, you pay, I think it was like £8 and you got 7 indie games. Well, for me, that was almost purchase. I went to buy them. It was only when I went to buy them, it went, please note, there's North America. And I was like, oh, shitting dicks, you fucking arseholes. Because I really wanted to support the charity and support Nintendo for making that step. And I almost considered just buying it anyway and then seeing if anybody had an American account I could have just put them onto. But as it was, I think I'll hold off and hope that they'll do an EU version. But it is interesting because it's not just Humble doing these bundles. There are lots of other companies that are doing the same thing, but only for PC. So it could now be that we'll start to see really good value charitable deals coming from the bigger manufacturers. So hopefully you'll see it. Now, Sony and Game did a promo last year to celebrate the anniversary of PlayStation.
Yep.
Well, they did a few. They did the little shop, didn't they? And thing where you could buy one for £19.95.
Yep.
£19.94, wasn't it?
Yep.
Then they did a thing with Game as an online quiz where you had to name a load of characters.
Yes.
And it was a massive fuck up.
Yep.
And loads of people took advantage of it, and only the people who passed it got the chance to buy the console, which then made this PS4 one of the most expensive variants possible.
Yep.
Have you got the CX thing loaded up there?
Yes, I have.
So CX have got a few of these in stock now. They've got about, I think, 20 odd.
Yep.
How much are they selling them for, Rob?
Buy now for £1,275.
Now, this doesn't normally happen with limited editions, because normally a limited edition that's that valuable wouldn't make it back into the sale. But this is kind of also indicative of why this system was shit.
Yep.
Because people were buying them to make money, not to be a
Play.
fan.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that CX has got that many clearly states that of the, I think there was 5,000 made in the UK areas. So of those already, whatever percentage of that is in CX. And that's just in CX. That's not people who sold them online. That's not eBay. it pisses me off when you think of all the people who queued and waited and played by the rules and then couldn't get through. Now, the ASA has slapped them all on the wrist majorly and said that it wasn't fair, it was an unjust system, that there weren't sufficient safeguards to make sure that people couldn't cheat. They've kind of been let off to the point that they've still made all their money, they've still sold all these consoles.
Yeah.
There's nothing much that can be done to penalise there, but hopefully it will stop people from trying to do such a horrible system again. But the fact that there is a PS4 out there worth over £1,000 in CX's prices,
well,
it's but they're even buying them at like £750 cash.
Yeah, it's £750 cash or £750 vouchers.
Yeah, it's like I'd kind of be tempted to do that if I had one. I would think, well, hang on a second, I could just buy a new PS4 that's not grey and have £300 left over to buy games with. I can understand why some people might be tempted to do that, but it does annoy me that.
But it's the same, in a sense, it's the same principle as ticket touting.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a video games version.
Yeah, I mean, there should be, with something that limited, there really should be some caveat to say that you can't sell this within 5 years. If you do, then we get to punch you in the mouth repeatedly in public on video. But that never happened because they'll just back out of their plans.
That's the weediest man they can find in the office.
Well, that wouldn't be difficult, would it, with the ASA and Sony? Ubisoft had a big they had their sort of general annual reports thing where they've basically said that there's going to be loads of special editions for Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which is always nice. Statues, we have lots of statues, cloth.
They love their statues.
Well, they do. There's now 3 versions that I already want to buy, but that's mostly because I love their statues. There's some sound effects there of a Coke being poured as well. They're no longer developing games for last gen at all.
That was the most interesting part for me, because they've done figurines and so forth before.
Yep.
And special editions and all this sort of stuff. I know they said they weren't going to do an app to go with Syndicate.
No. Concentrate on making Syndicate a good game instead of ruining it.
But is this the first major developer to completely move away from the last gen?
I think it's the first one to completely move away. There's lots of franchises now that are saying they're purely being developed for new gen. I think FIFA's going to still be cross-gen, but it's going to be a legacy edition like they did with the PS2 version.
NHL, the new NHL, which we'll talk on a bit, that's going to be NHL Classic or Legacy.
Yeah. Generally, all they do there is just update the previous version slightly,
pretty much,
and keep it out. They put out a PS2 version last year of FIFA, so I mean they will keep flogging that horse until people stop buying them. Because the fact is, there are people who cherish an old console either because of budget or because they just don't see a reason to upgrade. If they're only buying one game a year, that's a ridiculous reason to upgrade a console to keep playing it.
But I can see why Ubisoft's doing it. It's 18. We said before, it's 18 months now.
Yeah,
it's fair enough.
I think the other side of it is as well. You've got to look at it from a financial point of view. Can you justify having 2 developers? I mean, Forza Horizon 2 was 2 development teams to make that game work. Because you can't just do cross-platform. Cross-platform doesn't work. You've either got to sacrifice something in the new gen or kind of completely ruin the old gen, have it a broken half game. So to sit there and say, look, we're just going to make games for this console now, that's fine. I mean, I can understand it.
Yeah.
I can't blame them for it. A lot of people are all over it saying, oh, that's outrageous. It's like, well...
But equally, I've seen pinch of salt time again, because it's the comment sections of different sites, sort of peruse and see what people are saying. And sometimes I wish I hadn't because it hurts my brain. Other times it's quite interesting to see how people view these things. And there have been, with certain game announcements, a few people saying, why don't they just move to the next gen? Stop pissing about with the last gen. Because they're kind of, I suppose, their viewpoint is similar to what you just mentioned. If you've got 2 development teams, or you're spreading your resources across 2 versions, because effectively what you're doing, even though it's the same core game, the versioning is different because of the different consoles. You're not giving your best.
No.
Because you're trying to cater to 2 audiences almost. So I can see why people are kind of like, come on now, it's 18 months, move on with your lives.
Especially with Ubisoft, because what Ubisoft do is they try and innovate. Of all the publishers out there, they're the one that tries the new stuff. Look at Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
Yes, it failed on 40% of what it tried to do, but it did really well on 60%. And there's rumours of Watch Dogs 2 on the way. Came out of this same thing, as is the fact they're working on VR games currently. Now, the VR games thing is going to be the next big step.
Yep.
So, you've
Potentially,
got
yes.
new gen, plus you've got potentially VR. You can't sit there and say, well, but you also need to just create machines for these games for these machines from 2007. Because that's what you have to look at. It's not machines that people are still buying now, even though they are. This is now almost 10-year-old technology.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to
take any
much
further
more.
than we have, yeah.
So why try and do that? Why not just say, look, there's some great games that one, now we're making some great games for this one and move forward. But the VR thing is exciting. The Galaxy Gear VR is now commercially available.
Yep.
And the game from, I'm going to look at my iPad now because there's a sticker for it, Omega Agent there.
Yep.
For the people at Fireproof who made The Room, if you've ever played that.
I did a little bit, yep.
They made basically a VR game, which was you were a jetpack spy. Brilliant. Already on the glorious Galaxy Gear VR, which basically you just slot a phone into. It's a genius.
Yes.
It's a great idea. And they've already an Angry Birds game for it.
Perfect.
And you basically steer it through the sky, flying forwards, collecting coins and things. It's just, if there's a nuclear disaster, there'll be cockroaches and Angry Birds games. Yep. All be left. There'll be cockroaches playing Angry Birds games. But I'd quite like the fact that there's already Angry Birds. They've so quickly jumped onto it and said, yeah, why not? And so they should.
Yeah.
Absolutely should.
We've talked about Angry Birds before and the innovations they've kind of done with the different versions, Star Wars, Transformers, and the way they just keep supporting these things.
Yeah. It's people get down on it and say, oh, they're just a cash-in. And they're really not. They're taking big risks with a lot of what they do. Transformers changed the entire way you play those games. The telepods ask people to buy toys to interact with their apps, which is a huge cost.
Yeah.
And it didn't pay off brilliantly. I mean, they've not made a huge fortune from it, but the point is these games are coming from a company who is willing to try new things, and that's always a good thing. And then you get people like Casey Hudson, for example.
Yep, creator of Mass Effect. He joined Microsoft with a primary focus on creative direction of the HoloLens experience.
Which is their AR headset.
Yep.
And is quite exciting looking.
Because the other thing is, with the Galaxy Gear out there, Microsoft dipping into it, with other things, Oculus, we've talked about before.
Yep. The Morpheus as well from Sony.
You've got these competition base almost starting, trying to get traction in the market, trying to woo developers to make things, to work on these headsets.
Yeah.
So you would assume somewhere on the line someone will fall away, because that seems to be the natural order of things.
Yeah.
It's sort of survival of the fittest almost. But you've also got 4 good size projects being pushed at the moment. So they're going to push each other, because they're all going to be want to be the one at the top. Even if they're more expensive, they can justify it by having the best games. Or you can say, well, we're the cheapest, we've got a lot of fun games like Angry Birds, or we're this, or we're that. So it's an interesting time for the AR and VR headset market.
Yeah.
Because it is still very new. We've known about technology for years, but we're only really now seeing the traction in the marketplace. So it's really interesting to see how they go, especially, as we said, pulling in people like Casey Hudson who've got track records in the industry that you can really hang your hat on and say, look, this is the guy who did Mass Effect, one of the biggest selling franchises of the last 10 years. Now he's doing this for us.
And I really like the phrase there, HoloLens experiences. Not games.
Yep.
Not apps. This is experiences, which suggests to me we could
see the Sims. Yes. Drown your sim.
But no, it could be like you're watching a film, but you can see it from whatever angle you want to look at. I mean, imagine that. If you're watching a battlefield, say like that, do you remember that Halo 3 diorama they did? Where the camera went in?
The adverts. They were brilliant.
Imagine if you were able to walk around in a diorama. I mean, that would be phenomenal. It's entirely possible. All you do is you film it from every possible angle and then code that in and then boom, in. Nintendo have done a very similar thing. They've got what they call a 360-degree view, and they had it showing off at Eurogamer a few years ago. You can now buy them. But basically,
they built something similar on the Gadget show, didn't they, with
Battlefield
or Call of Duty, and they basically had the dome And it was what's his name? The SAS guy, Andy.
And then that.
Thank you. Basically, with he was a paintball gun.
Yeah.
And they put like paintball guns in, and it was a 360 version of Call of Duty, basically. He was
and this is
the
thing,
treadmill
like,
and that,
and that used projectors and things, didn't it? Whereas now, obviously, you can have that experience completely. Sorry, because the problem is
damaging your eyesight.
Well, the problem with those sort of dome scenarios is you know you're in a dome. If your senses are so surrounded, like you've got headphones on and your eyes. I mean, when I've played Oculus Rift with headphones on, I found it very disorienting at first. But as we've talked about before, having to stand up or feeling like you should move around, I mean, it makes you more immersed than any other game. I mean, even games like you're driving, you start to like turn your hands.
Oh, I'm terrible for it. Yeah,
you know, because we naturally just become a tone with the technology, and that's where we'll be heading. But it's a very exciting time. This year's E3, although a lot of people are saying, well, it's only Nintendo revealing new hardware, which is the NX, but potentially won't be announced at E3, which is interesting. We know, obviously, Bethesda are announcing Fallout. Well, we're hoping they're announcing Fallout.
Yeah, well, they've got their own conference for the first time,
but
which means they have to have something.
We don't really know what anybody else is going to be talking about.
No.
And
you can probably take educated guesses.
Oh, there's the obvious stuff, but then there's AR and VR. Like, is Microsoft going to suddenly come out and go, the HoloLens will do this? Or is Morpheus going to get a release date? Or are they going to suddenly show off, you can do this in this game, or do that in that game? I mean, I like that uncertainty. I like that not knowing. I don't want it to be, well, this is the year that the Xbox One and the PS4 are out, this is the year that this is out. You know, if Nintendo release what the NX is going to be, even if it's just a concept video of 15 seconds and then bigger reveal later in the year, that's fine.
Can you imagine if one of them did an Iron Man game? So you know all the bits with Robert Downey Jr. in the helmet with Paul Bettany Jarvis and all the little HUD stuff. If they did that, so you were Iron Man, that'd be quite cool, I think.
It would be quite cool.
They did it right.
Especially with HoloLens as well, just all that there. But also, just imagine being able to read your emails and they just load it up and they just float in the air and stuff like that. I mean, that's the sort of technology I want in the office. Like, I don't want it for games, necessarily. I want that to expand my life experiences. But I could also see a facility for that in cinemas and things. You know, just watching a film, instead of it just being 3D where you've got to sit exactly at the right angle, have a headset on that allows you to move around a little more.
Godzilla. Imagine that.
It would be amazing. It would be amazing. And like I said, that's the exciting thing about technology. I talk about Bethesda, of course. Doom showed a teaser for. Well, they showed
a teaser.
I know it's in a world of 2.5 minute long trailers as teasers. This is a teaser. It wasn't even a teaser for a trailer.
Nope.
It was a teaser just going, Doom's coming. Oh, and there's a monster, and there's a shotgun noise. Yep. I do. Just what it needs to be. About 8 seconds long.
That's kind of perfect.
Well, it was everything Doom is. It doesn't need
8 seconds long on a shotgun.
Shotgun. And
congratulations, you've finished your level. Yay!
That would be brilliant. But yeah, this year's E3 is going to be very, very interesting, and we're not that far away from it.
No.
What's this about NHL then?
Well,
what are they doing?
EA have started to announce the features for the 16 version of their various sports games. Madden didn't really seem to try very hard. The Madden one was basically, it looks even shinier than before, which is pretty much what you get every year. But NHL and today FIFA have announced a few changes. From the NHL point, obviously, you know I'm a big ice hockey fan. NHL 15 was the first one I didn't buy at release. I think we must be pushing more than 10 years now.
Yeah.
Going back to NHL 98 on the N64. Because on the 360, NHL 15 was basically 14 with the new commentary team and updated rosters.
Okay.
I didn't see the value of spending the 40 quid.
No.
For Xbox One users who did buy NHL 15, they found on the ice action probably the best it's ever been. But so many modes were stripped out, things were supposed to be added. Be a pro, you used to be able to sim between shifts. Because obviously you have rolling changes in ice hockey. You used to be able to push a button and it would basically go to your next shift and just queue you up and you jumped on and carried on. They took that out. So all these different things just kind of, as I say, the on-ice action was brilliant. Best it's ever been, arguably. But these missing elements did a lot of damage. So I think NHL 16 is now putting stuff back in. making it better again, trying to tweak the experience. They're introducing things for the GM mode, like managing your players' happiness, morale, stuff like that. I want to be trading, all this sort of stuff. They've also brought in playoff beards, which is a tradition in ice hockey. The playoffs start, you don't shave until your team's eliminated. And
hang on, so that's that when you wrote that on the state. See, I thought that was NHL or 16 when I had playoffs and beards.
No.
These are actually playoff beards. Has this been in a previous game?
Not an EA one. It
Right.
was in the 2K series. I think 2K9 had it.
Okay.
Now, the 2K series was fucking awful. But I'll give them their dues. They tried the playoff beard thing, and they had Zamboni thing. You could drive the Zamboni that cuts the eyes between periods.
Okay.
Stupid little touches, but they were fun. And I like that EA are chucking this in. It's stupid.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that little thing which makes, especially hockey fans, just go, yay! And it is so
never do that again,
fucking yay!
No,
So
it's
fucking
ice hockey. It's a big manly thing. Ice hockey fans don't ever do that noise.
I do. I used to do it during games to put people off.
Could you imagine if that was like somebody gets taken down, there's blood on the ice,
The
so he
best
stands
one
up
was
and just goes, "Yay!"
The best one, I used to play with a guy called Rob, and he did a really good Chewbacca impression. So as people would skate past, he'd just do it randomly, and then every now and again the linesman would actually turn around. So it was fun every time. Never got old. But yeah, just these little touches they're adding into NHL 16. So playoff beards are a stupid little touch, but also it adds that little bit of realism. And as I said, it's the sort of thing that makes people happy in a stupid kind of way. It's not new to ice hockey games, but it is new to EA. And as I said, it's a little bit of a damage limitation stroke repair from last year.
So it does seem like EA are putting a lot of effort into making sure that they are the game. Like, it's in the game.
It's not just that they are the only game right now.
Yeah.
Because 2K dropped out.
That's the point. They don't have to try, but they are trying.
They are trying, yeah. Because they dropped the ball with NHL 15, I think.
It's called a puck.
I know, you know what I mean. Really? Well, obviously too many of them hit me in the head. Anyway, but they kind of dropped the ball a bit last year, and this feels like a lot like, as I said, not just nudging things forward, but repairing that damage.
Okay.
So, and as I mentioned, FIFA 16's also made its first proper announcement today.
Yeah.
And it is adding 12 women's international teams.
Yeah.
Including England, the US, who are pretty damn good. I think Germany were in there as well, Canada. But kind of a mixed response.
I think that's an understatement.
Yeah.
The problem is, a lot of people are dickheads.
Yes.
When it comes to anything involving females. The Gamergate thing was part of this.
Well, every single, again, pinch of salt, had a little flick through the comment sections. At least one person in every section did the "do they swap shirts at the end" joke.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's not even one of those tongue-in-cheek jokes
where
you're taking the piss out of misogynistic pricks, because it's everybody else is doing it. It's gone beyond that kind of satire, lampooning. It's just
and
like,
this is the thing. I mean, like the Women's World Cup was probably the most prominent set that's ever had. Really, the last one.
The next one's coming up this summer.
Yeah, and so. There's a lot of people like, well, there's a Women's World Cup. They didn't know there was these international women's leagues. And now, like you say, that is gaining prominence. It absolutely should be in a game that reflects every aspect of FIFA. Well, obviously, they're not going to have the midnight dawn raid submissions.
Oh, we don't know yet. It might be down in DLC.
I doubt it. I think the FIFA coins will have to be carefully monitored as well. But, I as we discussed before the show, I'm not into football in any sense of the word. I'm not going to even pretend I'm into football. But I think if you're selling a game that is based on a reflection of what international football is, and then you leave out something that is up and coming because you worry that somebody might go, women in the game. The thing that pissed me off most was the people that were suggesting that this was in there to attract female gamers to playing FIFA. That's entirely counterproductive as well. Like suggesting that only women would watch women's football, just as only men watch men's football. It's a very presumptuous and sexist attitude to have. It should be there because it's part of football.
What I liked as part of the press release was EA has overcome technical obstacles to add 12 female national sides to FIFA 16. I was like, technical obstacles might not have been the best way to phrase it.
Is that just the word tits? Is that the only difference?
That's kind of the thing. I'm like, what? Because they've got to slightly change the models of the players on the front. I mean, I did read into the article. They talked about the underlying player models.
Yeah.
So before they said basically it was almost like a rubber band. You had a set. And then, if it was a tall player, you just stretched it.
Yeah.
If it was Wayne Rooney, you stretched it.
Yeah, I mean,
and they didn't want to just do that because they actually wanted. It sounds like they wanted to actually try and both male and female players genuinely recreate the differences between
and the physicality
one player and another
different as well.
Yeah, and so that's kind of thing. But it was just the way it was like technical obstacles read in such an awkward way. I'm just like, what the?
But then that's the same thing that Ubisoft said when they said they couldn't put a female assassin into Unity because it would require a huge amount of work. And a lot of people immediately go, what? Make it a woman? It's like, well, no, if you do it properly, if you have the movements and the tracking...
And that was what they were trying to... It was just a very clumsy quote, but reading into it, it's a similar principle, I think. Just accompanied by a clumsy quote, they're talking about the underlying models where they're actually trying to almost build a skeleton.
There's a brilliant picture here of Alex Morgan, who's a USA female striker.
I think female player of the year for about 2 or 3 years in a row.
The sub-quote is, USA striker Alex Morgan will feature on FIFA 2016, not in, but will she celebrate like her computerised player at the World Cup? Probably, if that's the one she scanned. They wouldn't have just gone, can you do whatever your celebration is? And she just goes, no, you just make something up.
Was it Alex Morgan who did the classic shirt off after scoring? Was that her? I think that might have been her. There was certainly one famous goal where they did do the shirt off celebration, which obviously in a women's game is like, I mean, it's like sports bra. But footballers do this all the time.
Exactly.
It's a yellow card offence. But that was just I did see that. It was just some shitty joke. What I did like, obviously Eurogamer posted this news. It's Tom Phillips, who I follow on Twitter as well. One commenter, hope it has titty physics. To which Tom replied in the comments, grow up. And all he got back was, go fuck yourself, sensitive hippie-looking cunt. So that was a great insult, sensitive hippie-looking cunt.
There was another one which was...
now go and die.
Joseph Screbbles, where's he? He also did a response to somebody commenting on the video, which was somebody called Juan Felipe Diaz Caro, said, football isn't for girls. An Xbox official magazine, which is him, went, you are a moron. I love it, the fact that this is...
Some of the comments have been ridiculous. And as you said, this basically reflects the change in world football. The women's game's been growing probably faster than the men's.
Yeah.
Granted, its room for growth was much different because of the starting points. It's the same with women's ice hockey. Men's is far more established, which gives the growth base, but it's fucking growing fast.
Yeah.
And this represents the change in the women's game globally. It's big in the US, huge, and Canada as well, North America, I should say, rather than just the US. The England team are improving. There's organised women's leagues and junior football. There's a lot more diversity and all this sort of stuff, and it just reflects this change in the sport.
And that's it.
People just seem to be looking at this in some bizarre fuckwit way. And it's just like, I just want to get girls to buy it, and it's like, well, girls buy it anyway.
This is why
girls play it. Everybody, FIFA's FIFA. If you like football, you either like Pro Evo or FIFA. Yeah. It's not are you male or female? It's do you like FIFA more than you like Pro Evo?
And it's also what I hate is the fact that people are using this as a kind of a game argument. Going, look, this is what we worried would happen. Now all the feminists have got involved. Now they're putting girls in a football game just to make it equal. It's like, no. It's an actual thing. Like nothing is your just because a female's in a game and that's a positive role model. I mean, I was watching Tomorrowland, and in there's two ridiculously well cast and well acted female roles, both of which are incredibly strong and, if anything, are better than the males. You then look at Furiosa in Mad Max, another absolutely strong female role. What happens? Everybody complained it was too feminist a movie. It's a Mad Max movie with exploding cars in it, and they went, feminist dream this. Fuck off! It's a strong female character. That is not feminism.
Jermaine Greer talking about an exploding car.
But the point is, they just totally ignore the fact that it's the most Mad Max film Mad Max film has ever been. But it just also happens to have somebody who's not Tina Turner in it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh God, it's supposed to be Mad Max. This is the actual quote I read. It's supposed to be Mad Max, not Mad Maxine.
Yeah, I saw you tweet that.
Fuck off! What is wrong with you? Just like, why can we not just accept the fact that it is perfectly alright to have a female in a role without it having to be a big deal? Like, that's what equality is. It isn't about females demanding something or having the right to anything. It shouldn't even be a right. It should just be a case of, hey, we design a game character. What sort of game character is she? Oh, she's Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel. Just tell me what you know about Miss Marvel. Just very briefly.
One of the strongest, in terms of powers, characters in the Marvel Universe.
Carol Danvers.
Yep.
Miss Marvel, right?
Arguably the strongest. Some would say she's the strongest.
They rebooted a whole load of characters. About 2 years ago, they did Marvel First, I think it was called. And they changed Miss Marvel. She was a Muslim woman. Right? She had to tackle the challenges of being a Muslim woman as a superhero. It was one of the most incredible comics ever. Who knows about it?
Not many.
Because it was so like, oh God, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that. Marvel did it. Marvel did it, and it was fucking amazing. And every teenage girl, white or Muslim or black or whatever, should read that comic because it is just great writing. And yeah, it doesn't matter because in the world of the Marvel Universe, they're going to go for the Carol Danvers route. Of course, they're going to go for Carol Danvers because that's the biggest iconic character.
But that's the same as Peter Parker and Spider-Man rather than Miles Morales. Yeah.
And but the point with the Muslim Ms. Marvel is it isn't widely known because it wasn't like when they changed Thor into a female.
Yeah.
Even though that's perfectly canon and that can happen. It's anybody who has the hammer. Yeah. But they changed Ms. Marvel to a Muslim and nobody went,
but that's still got the
she'll
same
be blowing up planets next or something like that.
The female Thor still got the same reaction.
Yeah.
Oh, this is stupid. Yeah. Hadn't actually read the story by this point. Marvel, to be fair, there was an element of PR stunt to it. To go, this is what we're doing. Because that whips up the interest. Granted, it whips up the idiots.
Yeah.
So you take the rough with the smooth on that front. But that story has been so well received. Obviously, had the big reveal last week. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's reading it, but they had the big reveal of who was actually the female Thor.
Yeah.
And it became a really strong storyline within the universe, not just because it's a female Thor. It wasn't just it's a girly Thor. It wasn't that at all. It was an actual out-and-out powerhouse storyline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to this Marvel film. I've said this before. Well, the Captain Marvel, sorry, isn't it? So, but I'm really looking forward to. I assume it's going to be how Miss Marvel became Captain Marvel. I hope it is. But yeah, it just makes my brain hurt the way some people look at the world. I liked one. I think it was a tweet Chris Rock put out. I reblogged it I saw it on Tumblr. Reblogged it on my Tumblr. It was basically, I look forward to the day when women have more rights than guns. That's probably not far off, to be fair.
It's just it reminds me because I said I once remember reading, and it was from a very aggressive, like almost militant feminist who basically said they wanted equality. Women should be earning more than men.
That's not equality, then.
Exactly, and it was like no. Equality doesn't mean that men earn more than women or women earn more than men. It's the fact that you've both got the opportunity to have that role. Yeah. And that's the point. Like, you could have a managing director who earns more, but he's a man. But he got the job because he was the right person for the job.
That's one bit, and I know we're going to start treading a fine line here, that I've always had trouble with, is equality means equal, in my mind.
Yeah.
I remember it was a few months ago, so I forget some of the names, but a female reporter chastised a junior hockey coach in Canada. Now, when I say junior, I mean these are late teens, early 20s. Okay. This covers, so these are sort of basically they're adults. Most of these guys. The coach, I think the player left the changing room. The coach basically called him a pussy or a cunt. And this female reporter heard it. She chastised the coach. She said publicly, we had an argument. I said some things and raised my voice. I shouldn't. And to be fair, afterwards he held his hand and said, we shouldn't. That shouldn't have happened like that. And it was kind of like if he had called that player a dick, that argument never happens.
No.
And that's where it starts. That's what I'd fight, because it's like if you can call them a dick, you can call them a pussy, or you can't call them either. And that's where it gets really difficult, because if it's going to be equal, it needs to be equal.
Yeah.
You can't say, well, that's fine. That's not. Why is one fine and one not? Well, one's derogatory to women. Surely the other is derogatory to men. And I know, speaking of two white males, we're probably
that's
not.
The issue,
We're not probably on the best soapbox here.
But here's the thing: like,
it's kind of like
I would like to think that I'm a progressive man. Like, I'm not the bloke who'll go down a pub and drink a pint and go home and slap my wife. Right? I'm not what anybody would class as an alpha in any sense of the word. But you know what? I think that's kind of the better way to be. Like, I look at a woman walking down the street and I would judge her the same as I would judge anybody else. Like, today I drove past a woman and she had a 6-year-old kid walking behind her, clearly, visibly upset, like streaming with tears. She was drinking a can of lager. This is at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd seen her the night before with 2 kids drinking a different can of premium lager. So it's fair to assume
she traded one of the kids for lager.
That woman is quite possibly an alcoholic. The children are not happy at all. Yeah. That's somebody I don't seem to like. Now, I don't know any of the situation there. That's nothing to do with her being a woman. That's based on the fact that her children are upset, she's drinking alcohol and not paying them any attention whatsoever. So, like, on that front, I wasn't saying, all women are alcoholic, bad parents. But the problem is, if I'd have gone on to somewhere like Twitter and said, cool, there was this woman today, she did this, people would go, whoa, hang on, you can't say it. Because, again, with my rule, I never explain this rule to you. My rule of discrimination is you replace whatever you're describing with the word black. So if I go, there was this black person today drinking, ignoring his child, it was ridiculous. Suddenly it makes you think like, that's quite an offensive thing to say. So you don't say it. It's quite simple. Anything. If you think anything is fairly innocuous and safe, just put the word black in, because white person's guilt will immediately show you for exactly how hurtful that can be. Because the problem is most people talk to people as if they don't understand that people have feelings.
Yeah.
And with feminism, I genuinely, I lived through a time where the most important people in my life were women of an age where they were genuinely fighting against a glass ceiling. I understand why feminism was so important and it continues to be so important. I understand why equality is incredibly important. But I think we are at a point where there are some who don't understand why it was important.
Yeah.
They don't understand what the fight was about, and instead have perceived it as women should never be oppressed or put down or criticised, and it's the criticism bit. Everyone is entitled to want to not be criticised, but everyone has the right to criticise.
And I've seen this in a couple of... There's, a lot of hockey writers I enjoy, and there's ones I don't. And I'm probably people who read my hockey blogs probably feel the same. They like what I do, or they think I'm a dick. Fine. You put your opinions out there. You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Please don't use that word. I find it.
I'm sorry. There was an interview, and it was terrible. I just hated the tone of it. The questions being asked, I thought, were just awful. And then I think, and if I do, I'd rather be honest now and say it may be a dickish thing to do, but to say this is shitty. I think this piece is awful. But I didn't. I held back. 'Cause it's like it's one of the few more high-profile hockey writers, female hockey writers. Sorry. And I've read some of her other work, and it's good. In general, I just don't like her work. I don't like her style of writing. But it's like, if I say that, I know exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. It's instantly going to be, it's because she's a woman. No, it's just because I don't like her style of writing.
Exactly.
I didn't particularly enjoy this interview. I didn't think the questions were good, pertinent. One of them was just ridiculous. But equally, there was one yesterday by some bloke who's basically formed this opinion of a former player for his chosen team in his own head. Literally, he's formed this opinion in his own head, and he's written a piece on it, on something he imagined might happen if his nephew asked this player for his autograph. Because they saw him in a car park and he was on his mobile phone. Oh my God, they saw something in a car park and he was on his mobile phone. And he's like, no, don't ask him for his autograph in case he kicks off. And it's just like, so you've just imagined this situation in your fucking head. And, it's just...
So that's the point. It's the same thing where and it was like 10 years ago, if you criticised someone of colour, you could be accused of being racist. well, no, what I'm doing there. I mean, I used to say to
These are valid criticisms
yeah,
of a
it's
piece of
nothing
work.
to do with who you are.
Yeah.
And that's the point. And I used to say, when the Eastern Europeans started coming to town, a lot of my former customers would say, oh, well, I don't like all these foreigners. They're terrible, terrible. So, you know what? There's good people and there's bad people. If I hate them, it's because they're a complete and utter knob end. Not because they're foreign, not because they're black or they're Asian or they're from the moon. It's because they've been a complete twat when they've been in it with me. And that's why I hate people. I hate people who are rude. I hate people who are impatient. I hate people who are uncaring of other people's feelings. Right? There are lots of reasons why I hate people. I'm a very intolerant person. I like to think that I'm a nice person, but as my partner keeps pointing out to me, there's a lot of things about people that annoy me. Very often, I can hate 95% of the world.
Yeah.
But at no point will it be based on the colour of their skin, or their gender, or their sexual proclivities. It'll be based on the fact that they once said something like, this week, for example, someone asked me, after telling me that they're a massive fan of Marvel, asked me what Doctor Strange was. And I went, I thought you were a massive fan of Marvel. He goes, no, well, I've seen the films. It's like, right.
So you're a fan of the Marvel films?
I go, that's not a Marvel fan. Oh, yeah, but I've read some of the comics. Like, well, what comics have you read? Well, like the collected Ultron ones. I was like, oh, okay. Did you read those before you watched Ultron? No, after. I thought it would be good to see what else happened. Well, that's good. That's
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's how I got into the Game of Thrones books.
Yeah.
The series started.
That's absolutely fine. And then it was like, what about Ant-Man? What? There's an Ant-Man film coming. It's like, it's out in a few weeks. It's
quite heavily advertised.
It's like you say you're into Marvel. Like, you don't even need to know what Ant-Man's about, but you should know it exists. But that was annoying me because it was almost like he just did that whole, yeah, I'm into Marvel. Like, it's just like, it's such a casual thing. Like, Marvel's huge, so I'm into it. Like, are you into it? I mean, it's fine. I don't care. If you just enjoy watching the films and you don't read anything about them, that's all fine. But tell me you're really into something and then not have a fucking clue what else is happening. They didn't know there was another Avengers film coming. Like, that's... What? That annoyed me.
Technically.
Right? And yet the guy was Jewish, right? And I could have then just gone, oh, you're a fucking idiot. And somebody would have gone, oh, Bouncy don't like Jewish people, does he? Look at the name of his show, and now he's having a go at a Jewish person outside a pub. But no, I'm having a go at him because he's dicking me about, telling me he's in stuff he's clearly not into. It's a lack of tolerance on my part, really. I need to be more tolerant, people. But it was never anything to do with any other reason than the fact that what he said offended me.
Clearly, Barclay seemed to think he needs to be more tolerant.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is my bit.
Your bit.
I've been... this is what I like to call how not to get a job. I have applied for 116 jobs.
Well done.
In 3 weeks.
Good for you.
I have been declined for over 70 jobs.
Right.
Including Barclays Bank.
Yep.
Who originally invited me for an interview.
Yep.
And then, I think I've talked about this before, basically called me back but without telling me that I was coming back.
Yep.
And then called me to ask me why I didn't go to the interview that I didn't know
Didn't the
about.
first one, because you didn't have your birth certificate, they
said,
told you it'd be
"Come in."
okay for the interview, and then if they needed it down the line, and then
And
it was
then when I
like,
got
it's
in
not
there, they
okay.
then said, actually can't interview, so that wasted a lot of time. And so eventually I've got another interview for another position, the same role. The role that they told me I was in the talent pool for, and if I wanted to accept the job at Hunstanton, that would be fine.
Yep.
I could just do it. Well, they still wanted to interview me.
Right.
The interview could not have gone worse.
Okay.
I walked in, first thing she said
I'm
was,
a big Marvel fan.
I kicked out the bloody window, she said that. And it's an upstairs one as well. She said, oh, you made it then? Which, in fairness, could have been a kind of friendly...
Yep.
But that's not self-deprecating. That's taking the piss, frankly.
Yeah.
It was her office that didn't call me and let me know the meeting was on. So I said, well, I wasn't aware I actually had an interview. She goes, oh, you did write the date in your diary? And I said, well, I penciled it in, so I didn't plan anything on the off chance it was there. And she goes, well, if it had been me, I would have probably just turned up anyway. I went, well, no, you don't just turn up to a place
bank.
and just sit there on the off chance that somebody might
fair,
have an appointment.
if a bearded man was just sat in the reception of a bank, it was probably going to trigger an incident.
So that didn't go well because I kind of basically had a go at her.
Got your back up and she got her back up. It was a bad start. Yep.
So then we started going through and she asked me questions based on an online thing I did. Now the online thing was 2 hours of questions and surveys and videos to watch and respond to. And most of it was relying around mental arithmetic, which I did fine on. How you would do with problems, did fine on. The bit that I had problems with, apparently, according to Barclays Bank, is what they class as respect.
Right.
Now, I thought, well, I do have a problem with authority, and I don't really like you, so maybe this is a fair assessment. Maybe my answers have suggested less enthusiastic following of managerial diktat.
Right.
Maybe some of the answers have been, the manager has said,
hide the money in Switzerland, and you said, I don't drive.
The manager has said, Sepp Blatter wants to look innocent, can we make it happen? No, they've said things like, okay, we're going to change the way we deal with customers, but they sit in an office and you deal with customers and you think that maybe there's a slight reworking of it that would be really effective. Well, I would say that.
Yep.
Apparently what you should say is, no, you just do what your manager tells you. Well, I think that's a very negative and unhealthy thing to do. But I can understand from their point of view, they don't want somebody who's going to question authority.
Why don't they just employ a robot?
Yeah. So, this is kind of, I think, what some of these bigger companies want, is they want somebody who just does as they're told, because there's a national plan where everybody gets the same service.
And then you get all the people that are pissed off with speaking to people who are reading the script.
Exactly. So, I kind of thought that was probably where I'd fallen down on respect. No, respect is how you respond to people from other nationalities and cultures.
Okay.
Specifically, in the video section, there is an employee would come up and say, hi, I would just need some help with this, or hi, could you do this, or hi, do you know how you do this, or hi, you shouldn't be doing this. Now, in every time I responded how I thought I would respond, given that request as a supporting evidence that the woman then goes, you've been told that you need to get your reports done by close of business. This employee's got behind. Well, if I can get my work done, then I'll help them. That's the option I go. Yeah. Apparently, I said no to more coloured faces than I did white faces, making me look like a racist, apparently, according to their system.
Right.
Now, the bit here is when the woman in an interview says, when I question what respect means, she goes, for want of a better word, it makes you look like a bit of a racist. And all that went in my head was, I hear you're a racist now, Ted.
Yeah.
How'd you get into that then?
You should have just quoted that and then walked out.
Well, I just wanted to go like, no. There was a tiny little square of dirt on the window. That's all that was. It was nothing else. But for something that would derail an interview, being called a racist is pretty hard. Like, where do you come back from?
Obviously, I've not seen any of the videos or anything. I just like the way they instantly draw that conclusion.
Yeah.
It's not really think this person would rather get their work done first, and then, if there's time, they would help.
Yeah.
Because, right, okay, in the scenario you gave,
yeah.
Let's say the other option is you help them catch up.
Yep.
And then at 5 o'clock when you close, neither of you have finished, because they're behind.
Yeah.
You've tried to help them catch up, but then you're both actually off target by 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you both fail, but you helped the black person or Eastern European or whatever persuasion you want to insert in this role. That's the correct thing from a respect and moral point of view, but you didn't get your work done, so you're fired.
Yeah,
because you didn't get your work done.
And do you know what? Here's the thing. Like, I said to the woman, I didn't even notice that there were anybody other than white in those videos. Because the video, if on the screen,
following what's going on and ticking your option.
I was reading the support and evidence while listening to the request. So I was reading all this because it was a timed test.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch it and then just sit there like a film and then go, okay, Kamal, right, now I'm going to read the rest of the information. Yeah. It never even occurred to me. And I said, it would be
It worries
worse
me that has to occur to you for these interviews.
Yeah.
That you have to think of that.
But also, that doing a job in customer service...
Yeah.
That I should be the sort of person who notices colour.
Yeah.
Like that. Oh, you don't judge everybody the same. therefore you're perfect for this
And
job.
doesn't that just tie back in with what we have already talked about? That's not really equality. Because you are treating somebody differently.
This is what I said. I said, well, I didn't even notice. And she
something
went,
specific.
but that's kind of a problem if you don't notice people's differences. And I went, I've always been brought up to not notice somebody's differences. Like, if somebody has a disability, whether it's a very visual disability or not, I'm still the sort of person who would like to think, that's John.
Yeah.
Not, look, there's Cripple Joe, or look, there's a wheelchair, or look, there's someone with Down syndrome.
I mean, surely they're kind of your caveats. This person is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And now, to be fair, most banks, they provision for this legally. They're ramps. They are there for a reason.
If it's inside the bank,
yeah,
then the only issue I've then got is the table appropriate height?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll have higher and lower tables. But again, that's a disability provision.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with what service level.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so,
it doesn't make any sense.
So then she said, well, can you give me an example where you've worked with people from another nationality or another race? Well, I work in Norfolk Street.
Yeah.
60% of my customers every day were Eastern European.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of a fucking thing apart from 2004 when I got drunk with some Portuguese people and ate cake. And I said it was a really nice day and there were some African people, but I couldn't remember what country they were from, but they were doing some dancing. And then the Portuguese people had bought some alcohol and some traditional cakes and we all had a really good time and it was great. And I never really noticed anything other than the fact that they were just cool people. And I just thought, that's the right answer. Like, I can't think of a specific time where I've gone, when did I work with a black fellow? Because I don't work with black people. I work with people.
Yeah.
Like, at no point. It could have been easy to just go, every day Eastern Europeans come in my shop. And I just deal with them with patience and time, which is probably what she was looking for, being in Wisbech, looking for somebody who could probably work with people from Eastern Europe, because you will have a proportion of those customers need time and attention. But because she'd said racism, immediately and stupidly, I was thinking physically another colour.
Yeah.
And then immediately my mind was going, God, think of a time where you work with... I work with black people and all sorts of different things. I've worked with Asian people. I've worked with Indian people. I've worked with Americans. I mean, they're the worst. And yet, at no point do I sit and think, right, okay, I'm going to log down I've done this, because one day I might be asked to prove... It was almost like I was being pushed to say some of my best colleagues were black.
I have a friend. One of my best friends.
It is, and I'm thinking of back to Blockbusters. I work with people from all sorts of nationalities there. Of course I did, because it's a big national company. When I worked at Game at Christmas, there were people from other nationalities working there and serving them. And it just doesn't... It put me on such a pedestal where I was like... Almost like there was a jury, and I had a noose around my neck, and they're going, "You fucking racist! You disgust us. We're Barclays. We're the nice bank. We're the one that helps children and old people on the internet, and you're a dirty racist. How could we ever employ you?" Because at that point, I thought, well, nobody would hire me.
Yeah.
So I just started to go off the rails a bit.
You've already gone down the rabbit hole here.
Well, the interview then took a turn for the worst, because she went
punched me in the face and walked out.
And she asked me another question. I can't remember what the question was, but I remember her response was this. I wrote down. And now at the beginning, she said, at no point will I give you an indication of whether you're doing well or badly in the interview. Because that's a good interview technique.
Yeah.
So you don't know, you can't take advantage of the interviewer and then say the things you want to say.
Yeah.
And I went...
That's a bad thing, because the job I've got now, it was just stone-faced throughout.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just like, I've not got this job.
Yeah.
And then I got a phone call like, do you want the job?
Well, this is it. But she showed visible despair with what I said. And I said, I didn't think you were going to show positive or negative. And she went, well, to be honest, the answers you're giving, it's hard not to. And I just thought, oh, fuck off. I was like, if I've not got this job, I'm not playing your games anymore. So it's every answer she's given, I just go, a specific example. And then I'd give a very unspecific example, because she needed me to give an specific so she could move on. But she was getting frustrated because I was being unspecific. But I was being unspecific specifically to piss her off. And it got to the point where I think she had like another 3 questions. She went, I'm not going to worry about these ones. I just scribbled on the pad. And I just went, okay, do you want to just let me know now? And she went, no, we'll let you know within 5 days. And I went down the list.
I mean, seriously, that just...
So I was in the lift with this other woman who'd sat in on the interview, and she went, how do you think that went? And I went, I don't think you need to ask me. She went, she can be quite mean, she says, but she likes to do that. She likes to push people down. And I went, yeah, no, I don't think that's what she was doing. I just don't think she likes me very much. She went, no, I'm sure that's not the case. An hour and a half later, I got an email.
Yeah, you're not right.
We're not in, and you're not in the talent pool anymore. We've taken you out of the talent pool, which was incredible.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, I mean, the lesson learned and the lesson I can offer to people is if you think the interview's going down the plug hole, don't just think, oh, well, never mind. Now I'm going to have a bit of fun myself. Because it was...
No, that's exactly what I'd do.
I know, but
I think if I'd reached that point...
It was so stressful. It was like an hour-long interview, and this was like 40 minutes in, and I'd been so stressed, it almost killed me. But I then went for another interview, did a trial shift at Lux Cinema, got the job at Lux Cinema. So...
Barclays can go fuck themselves.
Barclays can fuck themselves. And on that bombshell, we'll talk more about that next week, because I'll start on Monday. You can follow us on... Twitter at With a Lot of Course, so there are. You follow me at Bouncy with HR second.
And you can follow me at Rob McGregor 35, and you can find the Tube Blockers.
Yeah, at The Voice of Sex.
Yeah, and at XBLA Silicon.
Also reviews on iTunes, because that helps. And
or just tell somebody to listen. Tell them we're good. Please, we're good. Please love us.
And you can go to our website and buy stuff through the affiliate links. Hello, Joe. Look at that.
Your housemate's alive.
She is alive.
Ah, I thought you were dead.
Say hello to everyone, Joe. It's recording right now.
Hello.
There you go.
Yeah, see, yeah.
She only has one word. She's like a soundboard. Just hello.
I'm a bit nervous.
You're okay.
She froze up at the big moment.
I don't think Joe's on Twitter, and even if she was, she probably want you lot following her. So don't try and follow her on Twitter. We'll be back next week, hopefully a bit earlier in the week next week. We'll try and get one out midweek to make up for not doing this one. But we'll be episode 21, which is a number... that's 3 times 7, isn't it? 21?
Right.
I'll
Countdown.
21. Film with Kevin Spacey about counting cards with students. That's what that one will be like.
Yeah.
Film related, working at the cinema now.
All right.
Work at a cinema, Rob.
And thus concludes the Thursday night movie show.
Yes. Oh. And then the curtain's closed.
Oh,
as if by magic.
Shut in and murdered now.